So the Code of Conversations today we have game designer Ricardo Lee. Hey, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, 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 what's going on, everybody?
Yeah, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, man. I'm doing wonderful. I'm just excited to be here. Let me see. I'm trying to get this link shared so people can see what's going on.
Yeah,
Let me
let's get
see
that link
here.
for you. Um,
Yeah, so give me 1 second here.
yeah,
'Cause I know you
like
got to.
LinkedIn thing, like you got to pretty much wait till it starts before you give out the link. But
Right, right, yeah.
right now,
Cause I know with YouTube they do the countdown thing. Here it is. I found the YouTube one. I'm just gonna share that one. But most people have that. Let me see.
okay,
Yeah. Okay, I see I'm frozen. Okay. Give me a
okay,
second.
yeah, yeah.
All right, 1 second. I'm sorry, everybody. Just bear with me a minute. I'm trying to share the link. How do you get the thing? Oh Lord.
Welcome to the show, Slash and Samurai. How's it going?
All right, there we go.
Well, yeah, man. If you don't mind, in the meanwhile, can you get honest a little bit about your background?
Yes, yes, absolutely, guys. Okay, so um, I started off as an artist first. Fun fact. So
Oh, man, I think y'all mute. How you doing, Logan?
Just chilling, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear Ricardo?
I was. Then he stopped talking.
Yeah, cut out.
He's like, "Oh shit, Gimli showed up. Run!"
let me bring him back in. Hey, Ricardo.
okay, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I think
All
you
right, there we
just
go.
came back.
All right, all right, all right. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was a lot happening just now. Yeah, I was trying to share the link. They did not make sharing that link very easy. Um, like, okay. Um, but yes, okay. So let's start over. So you was asking me, tell me a little bit about myself and I guess how I got into this field of interest.
Yeah, yeah. Can you kind of tell us like what you do and how you
Yes,
got
yes.
there?
Okay, so yes, I am an indie game designer and I am a animator as well. So yeah, so initially how I got into game design, my story was interesting. So I wasn't a game designer at first. So I initially started off as a artist. And what ended up happening is, like any creative, I went through a little series of having creator's block. So I just couldn't. I don't know. It got to the point where I just couldn't draw a thing. I feel like I couldn't even draw a circle. Right? It was just
Hmm.
I just wasn't happy with my work. So but I still kind of had like this creative urge to tell stories or just do whatever it is I wanted to do creatively. Just express myself. But so I started looking online into game design programs, and I found this one called Game Maker. I believe I started with Game Maker 6. That was like the one of the earlier versions, and I started tinkering around with Game Maker for a while, and then it was all she wrote from there. I just kind of I just started improving my art. I was able to get back into my art again because game design, it takes all of those different elements of art and programming and bring it all together. And it got to the point where I eventually learned how to make my own music. So now I'm kind of a one man force. As of now, so I do the art, I do the programming, and I do the music. So yeah, that's pretty much how I got into it, and it's been fun ever since.
Yeah, like what inspired you to make want to make
Mhm.
games? Like any particular game you played or?
Um, okay, so it's funny. So whenever people ask me, oh, so what inspired this? What inspired that? It's the smallest things that I get inspiration from. I guess because I'm an artist, I look at everything. When you're an artist, everything you look at, everything you see, it's like you absorb it, and it kind of goes into what you produce, right? So because I was an artist first, I apply that to game design as well. So it could be the littlest thing. Like I can be working, like I can start a new job working in the mail room, for example. And for some one little thing about that would spark a whole idea for a game or for a story or something like that. So that's kind of how um, That's kind of how I would just just based on my everyday life of what I'm doing with my hands and what I see is what inspires an idea. So, for example, currently right now I'm making a fighting game, and the idea was inspired by a can of soda. I'm not joking. I was like, so I remember seeing like a can of soda and it had like a really cool looking design on it, and I was like, hmm, I wonder. I want to make a game where I use soda as a theme. I don't, and that's kind of how the whole thing started. So with this game I'm making now is a fighting game. It has a theme of soda. So in this game everybody's obsessed with soda, and it's almost like they use soda as a part of their fighting style, and this whole thing.
Oh yeah, that's interesting, man.
Yeah.
Did you play a lot of games before wanted to make a game?
Yes, yes, yes. So my favorite video game character growing up was Sonic the Hedgehog. That was my favorite video game character. I did not like Mario. I don't know what it was about Mario. I could get into Mario, but I loved Sonic. So yeah, so I used to play a lot of Sonic, and then as I got older, play a lot of Street Fighter, and then I started graduating to Nintendo and getting into Zelda. So Zelda is one of my favorite series. And then so it's like yeah, so I'm bits and pieces. It's crazy because um, a lot of the modern games I don't really like them as much. Uh, and not all of them. There's a few good ones here and there like Elden Ring and stuff like that. But most of them to me they kind of just lack imagination. And I really love that early '90s era or that early 2000s era. I just feel like we were at a all time high when it came to creativity with games. I feel like they weren't afraid to try anything. So
They
I
weren't
kind of feel
afraid
like
to
that.
they weren't afraid to destroy the player and crush their hopes and dreams and any
Right.
form of desire to continue playing. Nothing
Yeah, yeah.
broke you like a boss back in the 90s and 2000s. There was no easy win. It's either
Yeah,
you
it
won or you
wasn't.
died.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember one of the hardest games I ever played was you guys remember that Lion King platformer game?
Oh, that's not fair. That's not fair because that game was glitched.
It was so that's why it was hard.
No. It was impossible. The game
That
developers
game
actually
was
came out.
so hard.
The Super Nintendo one was actually literally impossible. There was a bug in the game that made it impossible to beat, if I'm not
Oh, that's
mistaken.
crazy. Okay, see,
Yeah, yeah.
I had the
But they
Genesis
openly
one.
admitted it. Yeah, but it was broken. They couldn't fix it either.
Jeez, yeah, that game was brutal. I was like, the only way I could beat that game was by using cheat codes to get through the levels and stuff because it was hard. But
I never got past level 1 on Ghost in the Shell, and I never got past level 5 on Time Slip.
yeah, man, no, yeah, those games, you're right. Those games they punished you back then, like but I just feel like they weren't afraid to just. I think because the game industry was so new at that time, they just wanted to just try things, and I feel like we miss a lot of that now. I feel like the only way you can really get you really unique experiences is from the indie games. But if I could be honest with that, I'm starting to feel like the indie games are starting to get to the point where it's a little oversaturated too. I feel like when it comes to creative industry in general, we're kind of getting to the point where everything is so saturated. There's about to be a new renaissance, but I don't know what that's going to look like.
Absolutely. Slash and Samurai asks, what's the biggest influence on your art style?
Ooh, okay. Well, I love anime.
Mm.
Anime. I'll just say anime. Anime is probably like my biggest like influence when it comes. Yeah, anime. That's it. It's as simple as the anime. Yeah.
I've got a new game I would love to get built based on the Great Cleric. I don't know if you've seen it, but you need to.
Sitting up.
Have you seen the Great Cleric?
The Great Cleric. No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's real good. You got to watch it. The concept is novel. I love it. Like
Okay.
it puts a twist on MMO type approaches that you would just never have perceived before,
Mhm.
and the idea makes so much sense that it was so obvious. I don't know why players didn't do it to begin with.
Oh, I
But
see.
yeah, I'm not gonna ruin anything for you though. You got to go watch it. But get back to me on that.
Okay. No, I'm down. Yeah, because I just finished watching. God, I can never get the name right. Mushoku something. It's a isekai anime, and the guy I think he died and he got transported in like this fantasy world. And so he had to learn how to use magic and growing up and everything. It was pretty good. They did a few things there that I like. But you're right. Like it seemed like whenever they turn these animes into whenever they have like these animes and they're like based off of like games or like MMOs or something like that, they always do something unique that games never actually do. So yeah.
Square Mode asks, how is your learning curve of learning the program and using other tools to animate?
Ooh, okay. Yeah, the programming thing that was what I would say was hard. Um, because I wasn't a programmer naturally at first. So this is how I learned. This is even how I learned with doing certain types of art as well. Because excuse me. So I have to remember. So back when I started working on video games, this is before certain technologies was regularly available to us. Like, now everybody got like a tablet where they can draw directly to the screen. Or they have they got the little Wacom where you can just draw and look at your screen while you're drawing. But I didn't have that growing up. So I had to draw all my sprites with the mouse. So pixel art was a little challenging for me because I couldn't, translate me drawing on paper to the computer. I couldn't do that. So yeah, so how I had to learn how to do pixel art was I started taking pixel art from games that I liked and I just started customizing them and using them as the base. So one of the games I was really obsessed with when I was growing up was the Dragon Ball Z games on the Game Boy Advance. The what is it? Legacy of Goku 2 and Blue
Oh yeah,
Scary. Yeah,
that was good.
that series. So they really good games. I feel like they're so underrated. Really good games. And but yeah, so those are my favorite games growing up. So I just started taking those sprites and just started. They were simple enough for me to manipulate and change them and make them look like my characters. And that's how I learned how to do pixel art. And then, as technology improved and we started getting on tablets and stuff like that, then I was able to kind of just, go from there and just, draw directly from the screen. I don't know if I didn't even answer the question. I'm sorry, I might have feel like I went on a tangent a little bit. But what was the question? Hold on, let me make sure I answered
Let
it.
me put it back up there. How was your learning curve of learning programming and using other tools to animate?
Got it. Okay. Now and then with the programming. Okay. So now with the programming part of it. So that was art. So with the programming, I did the same thing. So how I learned how to program was a game maker. They had like these examples that you can these pre-built examples that you can download, and it was it basically had a game already built for you, and you was able to go in there and change things around. So that's how I learned. I just went in there and started fiddling with things. I'd be like, okay, so this looks like this the jump. So I started changing numbers to see what would happen. And and so then at that point I started being like, okay, I remember that this did this, and I remember that this did that. So it kind of got to the point. It was almost like I have like a jigsaw puzzle, and I remember that these two pieces work best together, and that's how I started doing this. So I started remembering how certain things work together, and then I just started experimenting and then flipping it, and being like, okay, if I do it like this, then this happens. So that's kind of how I learned. I just learned that's by just literally just experimenting, and so that's kind of the best way I learn when it comes to new programs as well, is just go in there and start tinkering with stuff. Um, now the problem I have with some of these animation programs is I feel like they make them a little too convoluted to sometimes. Because me and my best friend was actually talking about this last week, and I feel like a lot of these like animation programs are built by corporations, but not necessarily by artists. Because I feel like some of these programs be like, for me to just do the simplest thing, like make the character move, you got to do like this 5-step process. When in reality, all I should be able to do is draw a circle and then draw another circle 2 frames over. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. That's like some of these programs make it so complicated. So I usually gravitate to the programs that's a little bit more simplistic, like because I know they have some of the more industry standard ones like Toon Boom. Those ones they use for actual cartoons and stuff like that. I don't like those because I think they're overly complicated for no reason. So I tend to kind of just gravitate towards whatever works. That's whatever's more simplistic. If I can just get in there and just do what I got to do, you know. And then only time I will probably go to some of the more industry standard stuff is if there's something I can't do in this program. Like for example, for the longest time, up until I'll be honest, up until about maybe I want to say about 3 years ago, no joke, I made all of my pixel art in Paint, MS Paint on the computer. And so so it wasn't until about 3 years ago I found this program called Aspire or Aspire. I can never pronounce it right. The one I told you about. I remember you asked me about it. Yeah, I only
Mhm.
been using the program for about maybe 3 years. But up until then, I did all my pixel art was on Paint just because was quick, snappy. It did what I needed to do. I didn't have to go through. It wasn't hard to figure out how to set it up. I was just able to jump in there and just do it. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't have to go through a whole learning curve on how to do something. You know?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like you don't necessarily need the most complicated tools. You just need
Mm-hmm.
something that works. A lot of times, the more complicated the tool, it just slows you down. Really.
For real, right? And you know, it's so crazy because I know how to use Photoshop like the back of my hand. Right? I use Photoshop. I love Photoshop, but I don't use it for pixel art. Because the question, like, why would you not use Photoshop for pixel art? Because I feel like it makes it too complicated. That's really
Yeah.
so. So what I do is only time I ever put my pixel art into Photoshop is if I need to do something complex, like a glowing effect. But if I don't need to do that, I don't use Photoshop for pixel art at all.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's got to use the best tool for the job, man.
Mhm.
So like, are you working in the game industry full time, or are you doing more of the independent thing?
Definitely independent. Yeah, I would love to do it full time, but if I'm going to work in the game industry full time, I want to do it on my terms.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, okay. So I'll say this: I don't. If Nintendo called me tomorrow and be like, "We want to give you a job," oh, I'm definitely going to take it. You know what I'm saying? But the truth of the matter is, I just feel like it's really hard to get into the industry. Like I feel like you know, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. I just feel like back in the day, um, they were willing to, they were willing to bring you in. If you didn't know how to
Yeah.
do something, they saw what you were good at, and they honed in on that while teaching you some of the other stuff. But I feel like nowadays they're not really willing to do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they just want you to know how to do everything before bringing you in. And you know what I'm saying? I know how to do what I do, and I do what I do very well. But I don't know how to do what they want me to do all the time. So yeah. So because of that, it's a little harder for me to really get into the industry. So I kind of got to the point where I'm just like, I'm just going to do it myself and do it the way I want to do it. Oh,
So
my best friend is on. Hey, what's up, Terrell?
glad to have you on. Appreciate you stopping by and showing support. But yeah, so like, do you actually work in like the coding industry, or like, is that something you're looking to get into, or like,
um, Coding. Well, I mean, for my games, I code my games. Is that what you mean?
mhm. Or like are you like a web developer or?
No. All the coding I do is strictly for video games.
Okay.
That's it. That's what my code is. What's up?
What engine do you use? Unreal? What do you do? Are you doing Sharp? What's it? What's it look like?
Oh, okay. No, okay. No, I'm not. I'm not using any Unity. I'm right now. I'm actually in the process. I'm learning Unreal, but I'm using Game Maker Studios 2. That's what I'm using. I am a faithful Game Maker advocate. I will advocate Game Maker to anybody. Okay, if you're new at game design, it's amazing. If you're experienced at game design, it's amazing. Okay, so yeah, your Game Maker, their programming language is based off of JavaScript.
So I think with enough applying, you can find someone who values what you know and can train you more on it. So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
interestingly enough, like even in web
Mhm.
development, like the point you made about companies not wanting to train you, like you almost
Mhm.
have to come in as a mid-level developer, but they're gonna
Right.
pay you as a junior because
Hmm.
you don't have the quote unquote experience, but you have to know how to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. You know what? But you know what it is too, though. I just think and you really got to know yourself, right? Um, when it comes to anything that I do, I'm just a visionary. When it comes to stuff I make, so I find it really hard for me to put my all into something that I'm not feeling it. You know what I'm saying? So and if I was to show you the stuff that I made, you'll be like, okay, you know what I'm saying? But like it's just like I don't know. Like whenever I make anything, I really put my all. So like I said, because I'm an artist first.
Hmm.
So because I'm an artist first, it's almost like I treat everything that I make as though I'm painting a picture, even though I'm programming or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So everything that I make, it has my DNA into it all throughout it. You know what I'm saying? So down, like I said, down to the programming, down to the music, down to the art direction, everything. It has all of me in it. So I'm kind of to the point now. Even if I did have the experience, I don't know if I would fully like working in the game industry. for another company. It just wouldn't feel fulfilling to me after a while. It would be cool because I'm doing something I'm good at or something I like to do, but I feel like after a while I'll kind of run into that same wall where me being like, I don't want to work for people no more. It's kind of that because I'm just not able to really express myself. And my best friend can tell you, like, when I get commissions, for me, when somebody asks me to design something for them, it's better for me to do smaller projects than for me to do bigger projects. Because after a while, I'll be like, yo, like, this is like, and it's not that I can't do it. That's not the problem. But the problem is that I'm like, because I have such a strong vision for anything that I work on. If, like I said, like, I remember, like, I had a client, they wanted me to work on something for them, and I had such a strong vision for what they worked on. It was you know what I'm saying, like, and they allowed me to be my creative self with it. I produced some of the best work I ever made, and I got it done in like a week. You know what I'm saying. But when I feel like I'm creatively stifled, it's like, dang, it's almost like it's draining me a little bit.
Square Mo says you can always step into a role, learn new skills, and still create on the side.
Yeah, that's true. But I think I'm not saying I'm not willing to grow in that direction. I'm not, but
it's just not as easy. People don't realize that it's not that easy.
Yeah,
because it drains your batteries.
Yeah, it's exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because like I said, and this is what I'm saying. Because I'm an artist first. When you're an artist, it's not like, okay. So when you're programming, it's like you're a machine, right? Because you're a programmer, you know how to program it, you know how to connect this and do that, and you're like a machine. You can just go in there and do it. But when you're an artist, everything comes from emotion. Everything comes from spirit. If that makes any sense, right? So because I'm an artist first, I'm always drawing from that well of emotion and spirit. And if it's drained, then I can't produce. You see what I'm saying?
Do you find like because like you mentioned, program is more left brain, logical, art is more like right brain. Do you feel like you have to shift modes when going from programming to art, or is it kind of like?
Yes, I do. I do have to code switch a lot. So, for example, it's so interesting. It's so interesting because it's like it almost kind of, it's almost like I feel like it's almost like a philosophical thing somewhere in there, because when I'm doing art, it's like I don't have to think about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm just able to do it. So I can draw, and I can be talking to you, having an intelligent conversation, and I'm sitting here drawing at the same time, and I don't have to think about what I'm doing at all. But if I'm programming, I need dead silence. Like I don't even listen to music when I'm programming, because I need to focus on what I'm doing. You see what I'm saying? It's so crazy. So that's the best way I can explain it. It's like I'm pulling from two different sources in a way. It's like, so it's so weird.
Like, do you have kind of like a routine? Like, okay, I'm a program for a couple hours, now time for art, now time for music, or is it just kind of like whatever you feel like doing at the moment?
Sometimes it's whatever I feel like doing. I think what I normally would do with my the programming stuff is and some people probably wouldn't encourage this. I have my own process. What I'll do normally is I feel like sometimes the art will encourage me to program. So sometimes if I know I'm about to get ready to program I don't know. Okay, actually, I just started working. For example, I just started working on the attack animations and stuff like that. So some people will go ahead and program that first, and they'll just use like little blocks or something like that to do the attack. I was like, nah, I'm going to animate the attack animation first, and then I'm gonna put it in there. And sometimes it works to my benefit, sometimes it don't. I'm like, oh, I just wasted time on this part of the animation, but I mean, whatever, is my process. So it was like, So I'm kind of to the point now where I used to do that whole little, because I think this is the lesson of it, is that because I'm an indie game developer, I can kind of just do the way I want to do it. You know what I'm saying? And because I used to fall on that pressure. With my last project, I felt under that pressure of okay, I need to make sure I'm moving quick enough so I can have something to post every week, and this, that, and the third. I don't care. I don't care anymore, because when I did that, I got burned out from that last project, and I'm like, well, it's whatever. I'm doing this for me. So at the end of the day, if my game does well or not, I don't care. I'm making art that I'm making the art that I want to make. I'm making the project, the game I want to make. I'm programming the game I want to make. And if you like it, great. If you don't, I made it for myself. That's kind of, and it sounds so nonchalant, I know, but it's just, I mean, when you get burnt out, when you're trying to think about the numbers. You try to think it's too
Yeah.
much. And I think that's what's going on with the game industry. People are burned out because they're not having fun with it anymore. It's like nowadays when you play a game, you could tell the difference between whether or not they was making this game or whether or not they were having fun making this game. You can feel the difference when you're playing it. Like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, you can tell they had fun
Yeah.
when they was making that game. You could feel it. You could feel it through the controls with the amount of characters. You could feel how much fun they were having when they made that game.
Well, that's the biggest issue with the industry right now is they've forgotten that as game developers, first and foremost, you're a gamer at heart.
Right.
Once you lose that and you just go corporate, it's going to drain your batteries, which is going to drain the quality. And that's the biggest issue and the complaint that I have that I've pushed back for the longest time is I would rather wait 3 or 4 or 5 or 7 years for a game, but the game to be phenomenal, than fork out a new edition or a new version every year or two. It's like, I don't mind waiting several years. Like, for example, Elder Scrolls. I'm happy to wait several years in between title releases so that I can have a good experience. Because I still play Skyrim. I still play Oblivion. I still play Morrowind.
Absolutely.
Those games don't lose their play value because people made those with passion and not with purchase points in mind. That's why EA games suck and they have no replay value.
It does. That's absolutely real. I remember I was talking to somebody. I ain't gonna say no names. No, I'm joking. But I was talking to somebody, and they're an indie game developer, and so I asked him, okay, so I was like, hey, so what kind of game you're working on? And he was like, oh, well, I'm working on this type of game because my research told me that this kind of game sells and this that. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So you're making a game because you think it's going to sell and it's going to do well because this is what people are into right now. Oh, you already doing this wrong. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I mean, your research may be correct. You know what I'm saying? But that's not fun. Are you doing this because you like doing it, or are you just doing it because you're trying to make money? It's like I don't understand. I just don't get that.
Yeah, that point about passion is great, man, because like even with this podcast, like, when I started focusing on numbers and you don't get the numbers you think you should have got, you start feeling drained and maybe I want to give it up. But if you just do it for the fun of it, it's like you're gonna continue doing it even if nobody affirms what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And you get like this. I don't know. You get like this satisfaction from it. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about this one of the last games I worked on, right? So I was a part of this event called Graffiti Games, and it was with this company called Playcraft, and they're located in New York. And so every year around the summertime, they'll choose a different underrepresented community to focus on for game development, right? So the year before me, I think they did the LGBT community. And then my year they focused on Black game designers. So they found 5 of us, 5 Black game designers to work on a project. So so there was like, look, we're gonna pay you X, Y, and Z to work on whatever you want for the thing, just showcasing how this makes you feel or whatever, right? So I was like, cool. So okay, I got 3 weeks to work on the game. What do I want to make, right? And I picked the thing that nobody would expect me to make, especially with the other games you see me that I've made. I chose to work on a narrative game. I wanted to tell a story, so I wanted to make a game that felt like an interactive storybook, and to this day, one of my favorite things I ever made. It was a short, sweet game. To this day, one of my favorite things I ever made, and I just felt so fulfilled when I made it, just because it's what I wanted to make. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, I don't know. I was able to tell a story. I was able to, it's just, I don't know. I just felt, I can't explain it. I just felt so good after making it. And, and it was kind of without getting too deep, it was kind of like almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. I remember, you know what I mean? And I remember a long time ago, I was praying and talking to the Lord, and I feel like He shared some things with me. And He was like, through your games, I'm gonna bring, like deliverance to people through the things that you make. You know what I'm saying? I remember Him telling me that, and a lot of you not. So after I made that game for that event, one of the girls that was a part of the event, she decided to play my game on her live stream. and she had like a nice amount of followers. I was watching her play the game, and I'm watching them, watching her play it and everything. And I remember somebody typing in the comments, and they were saying like, I don't understand what's going on, but I'm like, just me listening to the music from the game, I feel like I'm like being like free from my anxiety. You know what I'm saying? And I started crying because I remember what God told me. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like I didn't, you know what I'm saying? So it's just stuff like that. I just like that one little thing. It was enough for me. So I was in that one little thing made me happy. You know what I'm saying? So to this day, that's still one of my favorite things I ever made.
Yeah, so it seems like game making is almost like like some people look at it as work, but for you it's almost like just an enjoyable activity period, and you're also free to put your message in there.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like I'm a Christian, but I don't make my message intrusive. You know what I'm saying? So it's never like that. My message is always something that people can relate to. You know what I'm saying? So in that game, the story to that game was it was a little girl. She her and her family were going to a Sky Lantern festival. You ever seen the little drinks where they light the little lantern and let it go or whatever? So they were going to this festival at the end of the summer. So she spent all summer working on her lantern, but then when it came time to let it go, she didn't want to let it go. Because she put so much time and effort into it. And so she finally let it go. And when she let it go, it ended up kind of crashing and burning. But she didn't see it happen. And so it crashed and burned. But when it crashed and burned, it transformed into like this beautiful fire creature. And then the story eventually what was going to happen was the fire creature was going to come back to the little girl. So the whole message behind it is sometimes you have to let something go, and for it to come back to you in a more beautiful way. And that was the message, you know what I'm saying? And it's something that anybody can relate to. So it wasn't necessarily a Christian message. It was just more so just a message of sometimes just letting go.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So like so that particular interaction was touching for you. Like have you seen like other people play your game, and like were they like really moved, and how did it affect you?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, so surprisingly, a lot. The few people I know played the game, they all loved it. And it's funny because I didn't have that much time to fully put to do what I want to do with the game, because I wanted the game to be like a excuse me, to be like a full blown series of like little things that was happening, but we only had a small amount of time because of all the things that was going on with COVID and everything at the time. So everybody that played the game, they all said, "I wish it was longer," and I said, "Yeah, I wish it was longer too," And I could go back to it. I do want to go back and work on it eventually, but I think what's been my focus now is I don't want to make the mistake of what I did with my project before that one, is working on one thing for so long that I have nothing to show. You know what I'm saying? Because my first project, Project Remix, is an action platformer. I've worked on that game for like 4 years, and but a lot of that time was spent with me learning what to do and what not to do, how this works and how that doesn't work. So it was a lot of me learning how to do things. You know what I'm saying? So but I put so much time into that I didn't have my art portfolio sucked. My game design portfolio sucked because I only had that one project. So I made a promise to myself where I'm not going to work on one game for too long unless it's a game that gets picked up. You see what I'm saying? Because I did a whole pitch package for that game and nobody wanted it. One company Konami wanted it, but that's a whole other can of worms. Konami wanted to own the IP and all this other stuff. So yes, and I was like, oh, absolutely not. But yeah. So it's but yeah. So I'm kind of so now I just don't. Yeah, I'm focused on the new project I'm working on now, and I got a couple of things I want to do. Is just I wish I could make clones of myself. So I can kind of just do a bunch of stuff at once. But yeah.
Square Mo asks, Ricardo, is there somewhere where you've documented some of your growth? And yeah, also like where can people find your games at?
Yeah. Okay. So you can find my so my Instagram is Nifiy Studios. That's NIFIY Studios with an S at the end. And it's all one word. And that's what you can find my that's on my social media tags. It's a very unique name, so nobody has it. So that's my so you can find me on Instagram. So I put a lot of the game stuff on in the process of me working on it. And then my portfolio, I'm gonna have to paste that in here because my portfolio, the link is a little interesting. And I have a portfolio with all my art and everything in it as well. And then excuse me. And then and I can also put the link in there, link to my my itch.io. That's where you can play the games at. Yeah, so you can go to itch.io and then type in the 5 studios as well.
You mind spelling that one more time?
Sure. It's NIFIYSTUDIOS.
Okay, let me put this on the screen.
Yeah, so you can find, just type that in. So you can find me anywhere. Honestly, all you gotta do is, that name is so unique. If you type it in Google, all my stuff will come up. Like,
so you mentioned like you pitched your game to a couple of different companies. What was that like?
yeah, all right. Okay, so so the first pitch that was to Konami. So I actually was posting some things in like this indie game group, and just posting my progress on the game here and there. And then one of their talent scouts reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey, have you thought about pitching your game?" And I was like, well, not yet, but yeah, I did think about it. And he was like, "Well, I'm one of the representatives with Konami UK, and we are looking for some games, some indie games to bring under our wing, and yeah, we want to know if you want to pitch to us." So he gave me a deadline. He told me what I needed for the pitch package, and so I focused on getting the demo fully fleshed out and ready for the pitch. I put together the pitch package, and then everything was on the move, right? So now there was a few mistakes that happened here. So one of the mistakes were they asked me how much would I want to make the game, how much would it cost to make the game, and I initially told them 80,000 for it, and they love that price, right? So then I got some bad advice. I got some bad advice from someone who excuse me. I got some bad advice from someone who I thought was more experienced in this space, and they was like, "Oh, dude, that's a little too low. You probably should ask for for the type of game you're going to make." Because I was making it was an action platformer / Metrovania game, So they was like, "So for the type of game you're going to make, you're going to at least need 150,000." And I was like, "Oh, okay," and me trusting this person, trusting their judgment, I was like, "Okay, well, I see what you're saying. That makes sense." So I was like, "All right." So I reworked the budget, and I was like, "Okay, so 150,000. This is how it's gonna be broken up. This is what I'm gonna need it for." And they was like, "Oh, absolutely not." They didn't like that price anymore. And the reason why I say that was bad advice, even though what he was saying was technically right, that is the amount that it would cost. The part that he wasn't taking into account was I'm still an unknown developer, and the fact that they're even having a conversation with me is a privilege in itself. You see what I'm saying? So the price that I gave them was the price I should have stuck with. But after I told them that new price, they weren't feeling it, and then COVID happened, and so it was a recipe for disaster. So it was like everything, So so that's what happened. So and I tried pitching it to a couple of other places, after that, but nobody wanted to pick up the game, and I did change the budget and everything, but nobody else wanted it. So I kind of was like,
no, that was the problem.
You
had a studio that was lined up for it to take a look at it, and then they backed out, and then that's the kiss of death right there.
Right. And then the other thing too was I didn't know if I was going to even go with Konami either too, because it was great, but I think if I would have negotiated better, especially with that price, it could have worked out. But another thing is they wanted to own the IP, and that I had a problem with. And I'm gonna say the reason why was because so they were only going to give me. So these are the stipulations. I was only going to have 1 year to make the game, which wasn't a lot of time. I at least needed 2. And then they were going to fully own the IP. So what was going to happen is, my name would have been on the game, but I would have been on the game as a developer. I just somebody that helped program the game, but the game would have been Konami's project. So they would have put it out there as this is Konami's game. But I'm going to be in the credits as the lead programmer or whatever have you for it. You see what I'm saying? Or the lead developer. So so I would have had money in my pocket, but I still would have been in a place. I felt like I would still been in a place where nobody knew who I was.
Well, what you could have done is negotiated royalties if you didn't
Right.
want to give up the IP. But in reality,
Right.
the idea of owning the IP isn't the idea of owning the IP. The idea of owning the IP is who gets the paycheck at the end of the day.
Right.
And so whether Konami's name on it or Toto Force or whoever, it doesn't matter. It's who gets the royalty distributions and infinitum that matters.
Right, and no, some of those things, and I agree with some of that. Some of those things I didn't know at the time. So, but like, and I agree with some of that. But now the part where I don't necessarily agree with it is because I was reading between the lines of what they were saying to me, and it's based on the conversation. Like, I can't. It's been a while, so I can't remember everything how everything was said. But based on what I was gathering from everything was, they were saying that we want your product, but we don't want you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what they were saying.
Right.
They were literally saying, we want to pay you to build a game for us that we'll own, and it'll be our game. And we'll give you a high five and a gold star for playing, and your name will be on it.
Right.
And that'll be it. But the catch with that is, and where this comes back to kick them straight in the nuts, is if they want number 2 title, if the game does extremely well, in order to have number 2 title, they have to have you. But then your first counter is as well, I don't have any financial interests in title number 2 because I don't own the IP. So why would I be motivated to make title number 2 when I can simply go make a totally different game altogether?
Exactly.
The capital I now have. And that's when you could turn back around and hit them with the royalties check requirement for all of the royalties for the game that they initially had produced with Title 1. And that's a check that's hard to swallow for companies, but if they want Title 2 bad enough, they'll write it.
Right. See, I didn't know that at the time, so it's like, God, so
imagine telling CD Projekt Red, no, we're not going to back Witcher 2, which sold more than Witcher 1.
Right. And you know something too.
To swallow.
Right. You know something too. I think they saw what I saw too. The game had
on a live stream and you are naked.
Oh. I'm sorry. Okay. But yeah. I think they saw what I saw as well. The game had so much marketing potential when it comes to merchandise and everything. And I saw all of this. I saw the vision for it. You know what I'm saying? I saw the vision for a whole fashion line based on just this game. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think they saw that too. But I mean, you live and learn. So I now know what to do and what not to do. And I'm pretty sure I'm still gonna make some mistakes, but that's part of the journey. I guess it's part of being the indie game developer. I'd rather learn and make the mistakes than and then get screwed over at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah. The biggest thing is not getting screwed over for your titles, and that's the thing I'm not a fan of the game industry. So a bit of background about me: I actually invest in the gaming industry. Part of the reason why I'm building my own data centers across the U.S. and into EPAC and JPAC, as well as also into the UK region in Europe, is I want to be able to be the platform provider for video games, and be the go-to infrastructure for them as part of my investment strategy with those companies. And I just want a huge fucking bite out of everybody's lunch. By being a guy, it's like, I'm going to provide you developers. I'm going to provide you assets. I'm going to provide you the engines. I'm going to provide you the salaries, and I'm going to provide you the infrastructure for the entire platform. And all your game has to do is make money. And
nice. I like that.
And I'll take a king's ransom for all of that, but I'll own a percentage basis of instead of owning the hero ATF, I'll own the actual fucking industry. And so I'll be one of the largest players in the game. And right now I'm buying more hardware to move towards that very quickly.
I love that.
Yeah, but I want to own a percentage basis of the industry. The way I see it is simple. If I own 20% of every MMO, I'm doing pretty damn good. Life is good.
No, I love that. No, that's great. Yeah, so you have this one thing that they're going to need. So you're like going something like, but look what I got. I know you want this.
Oh, I've got everything. I'll have the digital assets. I've got the storage. I've got the databases. I've got the bandwidth. I've got the servers. I've got the staff. I've got the support center. I've got the operations center going in.
Mhm.
I've got geographically distributed presence across every major continent.
Mhm.
I'll have that up here pretty soon. So I've got presence and I've got everything that you need. The only thing you have to do is build the game.
No,
And
I love
on
that.
top of that, I'll help you get the staff to get everything in place, and I'll help you get credits so that you can get your staff at a discount.
Right. I love that. I love
I
see.
want your game to be successful. I want you to be successful. And
Right.
I want that because if your game is awesome, I can have a good time. Now,
No,
I just
love
want to be clear about the fact that I expect that, if I'm having a hard time killing this asshole, all of a sudden I
Mhm.
just magically get this badass boss weapon, and all of a sudden he just disintegrates, and life is great.
Right. Nah, I like that. Like, it's funny because I'm learning how to speak the corporate language a little bit now. So I'm learning that it's always about the bottom line.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. The
I'm
bottom line
learning.
is the
Yeah,
best
I'm
line.
learning. Yeah, I'm learning this language. So
Yeah, that's what you need to learn. If nothing else, the bottom line is the best line.
right. So now I'm learning how to once I start getting into these spaces, I'm learning how like this is I'm gonna tell you this is how I would work for these major companies if I could, right? I'd be like this. I see that your Call of Duty game did good, but it's not doing as good as it was in this quarter. And I think the reason why is because it's missing some creative flair. So I can bring that creativity to your product while saving you money in the process. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all need some creative coaching. And that's what I feel like. I feel like a lot of these games need creative coaching. And if I could do one thing, that's what I want to do. I can take your game from this and make it into this just by tweaking a few things. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm all about innovativeness and just bringing like a little creative pop to anything. Because I feel like anything can use it. And if you add a little bit of flair to anything, you can make the worst game a good game.
Well, I would say the biggest issue with the industry is the instability. That's why I want to absorb all the major players. Because then they're guaranteed stability. If they have guaranteed stability, they don't ask for as much money. You got to think about it. If the top 10 and top 25%, according to Pareto principle and the Price law, are contributing 70 to 90% of the game's overall content and quality, and they're constantly worried about what title they're going to be able to work on next, or if they're even going to have a job tomorrow or next week after this crunch session, then they're going to ask for a lot more money because they have to take into consideration being unemployed for 6 to 8 months, which is fair to them. And I have never agreed with that. And so I would much rather absorb all of the players and then have them under one household and then just let them work on as many titles as they want to without the concern of a non-compete. And I don't care what title of mine you're working on. You're making me money no matter what. What bucket you're in is irrelevant.
Yeah, I don't. When I first really started digging into the game industry, and started learning how things work, I was very surprised to find out that it's really project to project based. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and I was
really
like,
unhappy because of that.
yeah, I'm like that kind of sucks. Like, so I'm just using myself as an example. Say if I finally got this great job offer by Square Enix, and then they'd be like, oh, no, I'm excited. I'm like, I work for Square Enix now. Square. I'm excited. I'm all feeling myself. And then they'd be like, oh, but this project only lasts for 6 months. I'm like,
yeah,
what I'm going to do for the next 6 months of the year? You know what I'm saying? That's terrifying. I don't like that. So
that's exactly the mindset. That's why they have so many overruns, is because people are trying to milk the project for every dollar of every dime. If I have 15 projects lined up for you, you're going to feel pressured to get the project done so you can move on to the next project. You already have another job. You're not wasting your time on that project. You're getting the project done and then moving to the next project, to the next project, to the next project because you exist.
Yeah, and that is a problem because I wouldn't feel really stable in that. I always feel like I need to have a something else on the side. I feel like
quick thing from the community. Squaredmo, I would actually say the problem is they're rotating based on skill, but what they really need to be doing is rotating based on passions. If your passions are an MMO and you're working on a puzzle game, you're not going to be happy. People who love what they do, they will not leave work because you can't make them unless you either have kids or you put a gun to their head to force them to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the distinctive difference, is what the bosses of the industry, as that bosses is a relative term, have failed to realize is what they have to do is to create an environment where people want to be there. And if you do that, crunch time is no longer a thing. People are just working over because they want to work over.
They want to.
Not because they have to work over because, oh, we've only got 2 weeks to get to this deadline. No, it's like we've already cleared the 6 major flags for this track and the previous other 5 major flags for the project. And we're 6 months in advance of project deadlines because of the fact that people won't leave work. They're too damn happy. And we've done Uber Eats to the point where they just leave a bus here now.
Yeah. No, that's so true. It's like a fire. You know, you guys ever played Legends of the Breath of the Wild?
Oh my God, I haven't yet. You ruined that game
Okay.
for me. I swear I will find you and I will isekai your ass.
Okay. Okay. I'm not going to tell you nothing, but I'm sure you've seen the mechanic where you can start a little fire and it spreads and everything. So it's a lot like that. When you're passionate about something, you start a fire. That fire starts spreading like crazy. The next thing you know, it's fire over here, it's fire everywhere. You know, so you can tell. So one of your coworkers, so yeah, I stayed late last night working on it. I was having fun, so I stayed late last night working on this screen stretching ability. And and then somebody be like, you know what, I was just doing some art for that. So they so happen to be working on the same thing without even talking to each other.
Now they start collaborating.
Right. You see what I'm saying? And it just kind of just. So when you're really passionate about something, stuff like that starts to happen where all of y'all are in sync and you don't even know it.
Well, that's why Riot Games does Thunderdome in the first place, is because it allows for exactly that to happen. Creativity is lit on fire by default. And they let the fires burn out of control within a controlled environment because you have that controlled parameter for corporate for cost controls. But when you light those fires, very, very quickly, the fires start to merge by default. And you end up with a product that ends up as a profitable bottom line at the end of that. And then all you have to do from that point is we have a viable product. It looks cool. It looks interesting. What's the adoption of the market and how does that translate to dollars? That component right there is where most tech people completely fail. Right. Cool idea. The technology works. It's viable to scale. What they did not do was what is the market fit and what is the translation to dollars on that? When it comes to bottom line, bosses at the top of the food chain, they want to know 2 things. How much am I spending? How much am I making? What is that ratio? If it doesn't exceed 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 based on the industry, it's a non-starter to begin with because it's too much headache and not worth the juice isn't worth the squeeze is the simple
Right. I like that. I like that. Yeah.
You have to be able to pitch it to where the juice is worth the squeeze. $80,000 game to Konami with one person making it, cranking it out within a year. Even if the game bottoms out for less than $1 million and only sells 800K, they 10x their return.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And I wish I would have knew this, but because if I would have negotiated, the only thing I would have probably really negotiated, and if I didn't take a terrible advice, I would have negotiated for a little bit more time, just a little.
Well, I would have said if I was you, what I would have said was this: it's like, hey, look, I can make this game. And I can make it for 80K. And I can make it in 6 months. But this is where the quality is going to be. And this is where the expected sales are going to be. However, if I spend 80K in 12 months, quality is going to be a little bit higher. And the differential on sales will be X.
Right.
However, for 160K, I can go and hire a network programmer. And I can make it an MMO. And that's as a 3 to 7 times multiplier on your baseline revenue. And if baseline revenue was already 6x on your 80K investment, that's 480. A 10x on that's 4.8 million.
Yeah. So I didn't know that. So I know now. So
you want to talk to them in numbers because ultimately, I'm not saying that these game companies are heartless, but at the end of the day, they do have. It's a hard place to be because as a manager, you want to support not only your industry, but also your staff. As a leader, you want to advocate for your people and their career growth. With the industry perspective, you want to push as much passion and you want to throw as many things at the wall as you can, as long as it makes sense, because you want to see what sticks. But at the end of the day, companies only have so many dollars. Companies only have so many cycles. They only have so many man hours, and they can only spend so many of X, Y, and Z in combination to collectively, comprehensively package one X, whatever X is, whether it's a book or a movie or a game or a new product. It doesn't matter. They have a form factor templated requirement of it's going to cost us about 3,000 hours from marketing, and that's going to be at a rate of $83.17 an hour. They have these numbers on hand. Management keeps them on hand.
Yeah.
And very good management and leadership, they know their numbers very well. Because then I can sit down as a good leader and say, hey, I know that my deliverable is a 99.69 deliverable requirement. Contract value is $1,527 per hour. Billable mandated minimum man hours and manpower is no less than 10 seats at a 2080 cycle. And so that's my minimum deliverable. That has a minimum cost associated with it. So the revenue return has to be in excess of that by at least a multiplier. Typically, it's a 1.5x multiplier of base. So if I make $10 million in cost, I need to generate at least $15 million in revenue just to be able to get it past the tier 2 leadership. And so when you start talking to 3 and a 4x multiplier, that very quickly climbs the food chain, because they just say, what's the base numbers in the initial meeting? And it's like, oh, it's only going to give you a 1.5x. That's not going to get past your D2. Like, yeah, it's got a 4x, 5x return rate, and that's 100, 200% above normal threshold, because that's where they're at. When they're not looking at just you, they're looking at the other 200 games that they could fund. And the threshold of estimated returns is between 100 and 300%. And out of fucking nowhere, there's this dude with a 3,000% return ratio. That guy is the number one conversation piece for the next months. And there's not a question of if he's getting funded. It's how many of these other budgets are we going to cannibalize to make that one a reality?
Right.
That's where you have to be is, how do you stand out in terms of returns? And more importantly, how can you empirically demonstrate that? It's, hey, if I have a 4% capture rate, statistical average capture rate is 8%. So my numbers are already minus 50% conservative. Based on all of these outputs and all of these methods of calculation, even on a conservative basis with these qualities and these characteristics, targeting these groups and these regions and these age categories and these types of players and this demographic of these major 200 counties, I'm going to capture X percentage of dollars of this overall collective market of, we'll say, 5 billion. If it's 10%, I'm going to capture 500 million. If it costs me 200 million to make the title, I'm making 500 million. I've got a 2.5x return rate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was looking at the message here, the Technotopia Theater. He said something kind of really interesting. He says, well, creative types need business types, type grounding. Oh wait, how you go?
To keep grounded and focused. Yeah.
Business
will run a project in the no man's sky if you don't keep it locked in. They'll end up with a procedurally generated universe in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think we skipped over a question too.
I'm sorry. Did we miss somebody?
What's your biggest piece of advice for someone of color going into the game industry?
My advice? Yeah. I would probably say it's gonna sound crazy, but I think this might be it. I would say if you use your skin color to your advantage. And the reason why I say that is because nowadays everybody likes a storyline. You know what I'm saying? Everybody likes a coming of age story or some type of a story. So I would say you use your color or whatever your disability, use it all to your advantage. So when I go to that interview, I would probably be like, look, I am a person of color. I know the industry doesn't have a lot of representation of color, and so that's why I'm here trying to apply for a job at Square Enix, because I want to be your representation of color. You know what I'm saying? And they're gonna look at it like So they're gonna look at it like a little bit like, okay, you kind of kissing ass a little bit, but you may be good for marketing. You know what I'm saying? Right, for corporate. So they was like, so we can push you in the forefront, put you in front of all the little corporate like hangout pictures, like
stop you there. A better way to translate that is in terms of tax credits and tax incentives, you are more financially strategic versus another non-strategically placed employee.
Yeah.
And the financial differences that you might have to end up generating in terms of costs are insignificance relative to the amount of value add you're going to generate just in your tax credits alone.
Yep. No, that's real. That's real. And so they'll see, because the thing is they're looking at they are looking at your skills, but if you can bring in how they can make money or save money or look good in the public eye, I would mention that because like I said.
Look at it from this perspective. If they find two people with 70% of the skill sets with the right characteristics in terms of DEI, and they have the one guy that's over budget cost, they can rob Peter to pay Paul. Which you're 70% of the skill sets, we can't pay you the full market because you're not fully there. So we're going to say if the standard market for your pay is 100,000, but you've only got 70% of the skills, we'll offer you 85 to meet you halfway, but we can't pay you the full because that wouldn't be fair to your teammates. And people get that. You're missing a bunch of the skills, but you're good enough, and we're going to have to spend money on the training. But then we also get to counter compensate that with the 15 on each for 30,000, and we get to capture the DEI credits for another 30,000 each. So 60,000 plus the 15 and 15 is 30,000, which is 90. And so if I go over to this guy over here that wants 150, I've got 190 to play with. So I can meet that 150 with a 1.4x and come out with the same exact budget spend, even though I'm paying the additional taxes on top of the training for you that I'm already paying for, which if there's certain states or certain programs you can go through, that training will also be paid for. On top of that, if you're in the right countries, 30% of all of your salaries for the first 2 to 3 years will be paid for anyways. And so I can take that money, recycle that, and put that back in the budget as a tax credit, which I can sell immediately to capitalize on that credit, and then immediately transfer that 90%, 95% of that tax credit into hiring another 2 or 3 more people.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna start reading what this person is.
Yeah, I agree with Squared. You should apply based on the merit and the passion that you bring to the table, not your DEI status. But what you can pitch from a DEI perspective is that while I want to be considered, because I'm a service disabled veteran that's Native American, I have never once been hired for DEI, and I never will. I won't accept the role if I'm being hired specifically for being someone's token. I want to be hired because I'm qualified for the job.
No, absolutely. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is this: unfortunately we can't always make the rules on how we get in the door. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you gotta take advantage of that door that's presented to you. So like I said, everybody nowadays they love a sob story. Everybody nowadays they love anything that can make them look good, they'll take it. I guarantee you, if I was to write a letter to IGN and I'm saying hi, I am a game developer, trying to get off the ground. Would you guys be willing to write an article about me? They'll be less likely to listen to that versus me saying I am a disabled game designer that's also Black, and I'm dying, and I might die in 3 weeks. And I've been trying to I'm trying to build some buzz on a game that I've been working on before I pass away. They will pick up that story because it looks good. You see what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is that sometimes your advantage is your limitations that you have to play with to get what you need. And I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this too. I'm gonna give you a good example of this. The last event I did, that event I told you about, where they were all focusing on Black game developers, right? I didn't play the game they wanted me to play. So if I would have played the game they wanted me to play properly, I probably would have had bigger headlines, right? So they
want you to play San Andreas or something.
No, what I mean is I didn't say the things they wanted me to say, but I knew if I said it, I knew but now I know if I would have said the things they wanted me to say, they would have gave me the bigger spots in the article, right? Because when I'm looking through the article, because I was reading the article and I saw what the other developers were saying versus what I was saying. So they were asking me, so how do you feel about being black in the game industry? I said, what I was saying was, I haven't really ran into any issues with that because I'm an indie game developer, so I'm just doing me. I haven't really had too many problems. I don't have I faced any racism in the game industry? No, not necessarily. I wasn't telling them the story they wanted to tell. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But the other developers, they were like, so have you faced any racism? Like, oh yes, yes, there were times where I couldn't even eat my lunch without someone looking down.
500 studios, and they're just like, you see what I'm saying? And go away, get back on the reservation.
Right. You see what I'm saying? So because I wasn't feeding into the story they wanted to tell, I had the parts of my article was very small and it was less focused on. You see what I'm saying? So and as sad as that sounds, sometimes you got to play their game to get in the door. And then once you get in the door, that's when you can do the switch. And it's like, now I'm in the door. This is who I am. You brought me in here for this. I'm gonna show you what I can really do.
Yeah, but you'd have to sell yourself out.
Right. Sometimes, right.
And I'm not saying the value of your integrity. And
right.
That's non-negotiable. I've been offered a lot of money in the past, and I won't take it if I have to sacrifice my integrity.
Exactly. I'm like, right. Exactly. I'm not telling you to sell your soul, but what I am telling you is sometimes you gotta play the game a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You gotta spar a little bit before you take the real punch. You see what I'm saying? And before you throw that real punch, you know what I'm saying? And so sometimes you gotta do a little dance for them. And then,
so what I should do is apply at Bethesda and put on my full Native American ceremonial dress. And then when I'm doing my live stream interview, if they don't hire me, I can just be like, they didn't hire me because I'm Native American. And then all of a sudden I get a job offer.
I hope not. I don't know. I wouldn't want you to do all that, but I don't know. It's you gotta
scalp them socially.
I'm done. You got obviously, you don't want to, you don't want to blackmail or nothing like that. But it's just kind of the wisdom. You gotta have that wisdom to know what they want to hear versus what you know what I'm saying. Unfortunately, sometimes you can't always be real. Yeah. You gotta be a little fake.
But my thing is this: do you really want to work for a company that would rather you be fake than be your true self?
Absolutely not, and that's why I'm an indie game designer.
And that's why I'm building companies for companies. Is I will never change who I am. I'm going to support my goals based on passion and not based on the metrics. Because my theory is this: the entire industry is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you actually stop, don't look at Call of Duty, don't look at Overwatch, don't look at Minecraft. Look at the players and listen to what they say. I've played this title 1,000 times. I've played this game already. I've played that game already. Games that are coming out with totally new concepts, that's what people are running to.
Exactly.
And that's the issue, is the industry isn't supporting their player base. That's their customer. And I think if somebody came out with a new game, a new concept, it will explode in popularity. That's why No Man's Sky did so damn well. People are like, oh my God, this game's doing so good. Why is it so good? It's not even finished. It's not because it's a new game, and it's not because it's unfinished. It's because it's a new concept.
Right.
Absolute freedom.
Right.
That was open world to a parallel that no one had even considered before. The universe is factually infinite. And that's the distinctive difference, is that was novel. If you take that construct and you just throw money at it, it's like, come up with every idea and I'll support it. How much I support it is based on how well you do and how well you perform.
I want to be on your team because it's like you know exactly what you need. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but everybody wants to be on your team, and that's the position you want to be in. Is you want to build an environment where everybody wants to be there, because if everybody that's contributing to that area wants to be with you, the money will come naturally. And that's the mistake for these studios that they keep making is they're so focused on if we make literally anything other than Assassin's Creed number 79, Call of Duty number 219, World of Warcraft number 45, then we're not going to get any investors. This game's going to flop and it's going to be a disaster. I've bought games simply because they looked interesting. Void Trip was one of them. And I was bored of that game in about 15 minutes, but the concept looked new. So I bought the game. They've already got my money.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's the problem. Like everybody's doing the same thing, and that's what I'm starting to feel like.
Taking any risk.
Nobody, and I get, I get it, I get the mindset of, they don't want to risk losing money, but it's not. That's what the game always been. The game always been, you got to risk money or lose money to make money, right?
Well,
so it's like
it's controlling risk and controlling cost, and that's the mistake that they make. It's a good way to compare it, and one of the things that I do love about Amazon, which by the way, I got my answer back. They said no. I went through I think it was 13 interviews, and they said no. And so, but one of the things that I loved about Amazon is they have a philosophy and a policy of yes if. And your direct manager can't say no. Policy-wise, your manager cannot say no. Other people can say no, but in order to say no, you have to provide a 2-page thesis on why it's a bad idea. Almost all of their best products, including AWS itself, has come from that program. AWS by itself can financially support all of Amazon's efforts. And that's because of the fact that they have a yes-if mindset. Now, what you can say with any project is, sure, we'll give you an initial contained budget of, we'll say, container 1 alpha. And that 1 alpha budget is a POC budget, not greater than $1 million. Your liability is contained to $1 million. Submit me a budget. It must be within $1 million. Finished or unfinished, it will be in that parameter, period. 6 months, $1 million, 15 mans, we'll say 180 by 40 is 1040 hours. By 10, so 10,400 hours, not greater than. And you have to be done, or as done as you can be. And then that goes to an assessment committee. And then that goes immediately to a marketing committee that goes out and does some kind of market assay of some type or series of types that goes out and they vet the game to see what the buy-in from the consumer base is. They take a couple samplings of a couple regions, and if the samplings come back positive, you move to the 2 alpha stage, which is we give you another $2.5 million more to progress the content further. And we'll give you a not greater than 20,800 hours for an additional year and an additional 2.5 times initial budget of 1.5x for a total. No, it's 2.5x. So you'd have a total of $3.5 million and roughly 30,000 man hours spent on it.
So Logan, what would you recommend Ricardo do to really get his game in front of these developers so they can pick it up?
To pick it up, you got to have something for them to grab. If I hand you a perfectly smooth box, what side do you grab?
That's interesting.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, you're actually asking me that.
Yeah. Well, if I give you a perfectly smooth box, what side do you grab?
I don't know. I mean, if it's perfectly smooth, I guess I'll just pick it up from the bottom. I mean, yeah, that's the only way I can hold it.
Perfectly smooth. You can't pick it up.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly smooth box. Perfectly smooth boxes are theoretical boxes, which makes them impossible to lift. But almost every box has some kind of friction because it's not a perfectly smooth box. And most people, because of that, leverage gravity because it's the leverage point of least resistance because the box is naturally pushing down against your hands.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what makes it easy to lift. However, it's easier to lift a box if you install handles. You give them something to grab. Now, how many points you give them to grab determines how many people can try to lift the box together. If I give you a box that's easy to lift from a marketing perspective, that's fantastic. But if business doesn't have anything to grab, they can't help lift the box.
Right.
You want to put handles for everybody, whether it's investors or business or marketing or sales or community. You want to make it to where everyone can easily lift this box. Give them a good story so community and sales can easily pitch it. Give them a good defined marketing demographic so that the business side can easily sell that to the investment side and the upper management and leadership. Make it to where it's easy for investors to buy in by saying, here's the historical performance of the players. Hey, the lead developer was a guy that we got from a AAA studio who's got 8 different multi-$100-million titles under his belt. He's leading the project. He has a predefined history of success with certified metrics that have been publicly registered. There are databases you can access that says this is the game, this is the name, these are the players who are involved, this is how much it generated, this is how much it cost, this was your return. You have somebody with 5 or 6 of those kinds of titles behind it, the buy-in from investment, very easy. Hey, this guy's got a track record of 8 different titles. Average multiplier is 1.5 to 6.5x. Even if I average that on the low end, conservatively, I'm making 2x on my money within a 3-year time frame. Life is good. You go from that perspective and you go to business and say, hey, this is the kind of game we want to make. Here's the overall interest from the historical games in that likeness for this category component, for this category component, for that category component. And then we're going to add some new stuff on top of that to add some extra flavor and make it new and unique and innovative.
Right.
That piece has no measurable characteristics, which is fantastic because the other 3 do. And they'll just use that assumption on these pieces and say that's the pitch for marketing as to why you're going to buy the game. And we don't need metrics for that because we have metrics for this. And that's marketing's problem, not mine. And that's how business will see it. I've got numbers, I've got numbers, I've got numbers in my BI. I don't know what the hell to call that. It's a giraffe with the ears of an elephant and pterodactyl wings. I don't even know what to call that thing. That's a marketing problem. But then marketing can go out and say, you know what? People like to ride dragons, and everyone's wanted a unicorn for a long time. So we'll ask 10,000 players what they think and ship them a demo. And out of that feedback, 7,000 people like it. Well, fantastic. If 7,000 people like it and half of them are professional streamers and 30% of their fan base will buy in, that's 1 million people, $30 a title. Well, we've got $30 million minimum that we're staring at from that component alone. Not numbers from the other pieces. So if we just sold them the elephant ears with the pterodactyl wings on the giraffe, we're making at least 30 million just from that. And then the estimated numbers from all these other features, we've got another median average of 240 million. Total title value is 270. If we budget 100, we're over 30%, 130. Our net's 140 million, assuming we hit our median metrics. Conservatively, we're going to make 100 million.
So yeah, Ricardo, do you have a trailer for any of your games? Like I know the audience probably wants to check that out.
Yeah, sure. Let me see. I can't. Can I put anything in the chat?
You can play it. I'll do the screen share.
Hey man, I almost wound up in Sound of Freedom the second. Like
okay. You said so I can play it and then you can do a screen share?
You can send me the link and I'll play it.
I'll send you the link. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let me do that. Let me get that up. Give me a second. Oh Lord. Oh, okay, there you go.
But yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna pause. My face probably gonna pause, but I'm still here though. If it pauses.
Okay.
Yeah.
He broke.
Okay. All right.
Lags, buggy, randomly drops out and disconnects you.
But yeah, dude, no, you're making a lot of like really good points. I think give me a second here.
It's got to work for everybody. That's always
yeah.
It's got to work for everybody. And the biggest thing is it's got to work for you.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, what's in it for you? Because if there's nothing on the table left for you, then there's no point in you doing it.
No, absolutely, dude. Like, and yeah, see, like it's so crazy because like I don't know. I feel like Jesus, I'm losing track of my thoughts. Sorry, I'm trying to do 5 things at once here. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm about to get ready to share the link to your well, I guess I put it in.
He broke it. He broke it. And we're all doomed.
Let's see. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I guess we can wait till he comes back before I play this.
All right, I'm back. Okay. All right, so yeah, so the one I sent you, that was the one that Konami was interested in.
Okay.
Yeah, Project Remix.
Play it.
Okay, here we go.
And this is like a little 3-minute gameplay trailer, so you can kind of get the gist of it.
3 minutes. Man, what is this? A strip club? That's a TV, man.
Okay, let me do the screen share.
3 minutes. I need at least a 1-hour demo.
So if you don't mind walking us through like what we're seeing here.
Okay, yeah. So this
battery
is
here? Does it die if it runs out of energy?
So this is like the this is like a tutorial area. So so basically the it's, I guess in a way it's like an isekai.
This is like a Kirby meets Sonic type thing.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I've heard that comparison before. So basically, what happened is at the beginning of the game in the story, he actually died. So so when he died, he got transported to this almost like this upside down version of the real world. So right now he's kind of just fighting his way out. So in this game, there's going to be a lot of you jumping between the real world and this world. Yeah. So okay. So the character here, his name is Bento. So he has the ability to teleport, aka skip. So this whole game in this world was completely centered around music. So his powers was represented by the skip button. So he can teleport / skip to wherever he throws his baseball bat to.
Oh, interesting. This is called Project Remix.
Yeah.
Can people download and play this like on Steam?
Yeah, it's not on Steam. It's on itch.io. I could paste that in there so you can put it in the chat as well. Okay. Yeah, I'll paste that in there so you can put it in the chat. But yeah, the game's completely free.
You see, that's a mistake.
Oh, what'd you say, Logan?
That's his mistake.
Well, what that is not on Steam?
No, that is free.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it looks good,
charge
man.
$1 for it.
Well, I guess I didn't feel comfortable at the time charging for it because it was only just a demo.
No, you should definitely charge $1 for it. And here's why.
Okay.
People don't like free games because they typically think free games suck.
But
they do like cheap games. And so $1 practically free, but it's not actually free. But it's so cheap, no one cares if it sucks.
Right, that's what you're saying.
But what you can say is this is levels 1 through, we'll say 15. And I don't know how many levels are here, but we'll say 1 through 15 for simplicity. And let them know it's like, hey, I'm a solo indie developer, and I'm looking to make this my full-time job, and paying allows me to make the rest of the game. And so they're effectively supporting you as an artist directly to develop the rest of the content. You're being paid. But because it's only $1, no one cares. Not really.
Right.
But having that dollar from 1 million players gives you $1 million, which crushes your $80K budget for Konami. And now you own 100% of the IP. You've already made $1 million. The game is being finished. you already have the budget to hire a team, and you could make your next 5 different games simultaneously. And
Yeah,
you went
absolutely.
from being a single title to a studio. You produce 5 more games like that, and you have enough money to make a significant title. One significant title. Personally, I'd recommend making 3 moderate titles that each are a subscription-based game, so that you have 3 different revenue sources, so you can make one large title now that you have the manpower.
Right. I see what you're saying.
So, do you know how he can get his game on Steam?
I mean, you could just go to the Greenlight program.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty aware of that. I just at the time when I was working on that, I wasn't. I didn't. Yeah. So like I said, a lot of when I was working on that particular game, there was a lot of trial and error and me just learning different things. Yeah. So I know that now. So the new game I'm working on now, I'm doing everything different. So so one thing I'm doing is, because one of the things I was having trouble with was getting the attention of people towards the game. That's because I didn't do it from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Number one. So by the time I try to get people interested in the game was already halfway done. The demo was already halfway done. You see what I'm saying? Because I didn't know what I was doing with that. So now with this new game I'm working on, I started. I made a whole TikTok for it, and that's why I get most of my attention is on TikTok. Instagram doesn't do anything for me. TikTok does.
Well, Instagram is just.
Yeah.
Well, I won't say what Instagram is. We'll just leave it at that. That says what Instagram is. If you really want a good idea, here's what I would recommend. Go to TikTok, which is where your user base is.
Yeah.
And say, I've got, we'll say 3, maybe 5. Pick your top 3 to 5 ideas. Flush out the top 5 and say, hey, look, these are the 5 titles I'm thinking about making. Out of the 5, which 3 would you support me building? And then make each of them $1 to $5 a piece. And then, based on which one makes the most revenue, that's your primary, secondary, and tertiary focus. 40%, 30%, 30%, or 50%, 30%, 20%. Primary, secondary, or tertiary. And each one still gets made. Each one still gets updates. Each one still gets what they paid for. But the one that made the most money is the one that gets the most attention. And people understand that. Hey, if I've got 50,000 people paying me for this game, it's not fair to ignore 50,000 people for the only 5,000 that paid for this one. People understand that, as long as they understand, hey, I'm still rolling out content. There's still a development program for that. There's still development progress being made. It's just that it's not the primary because it doesn't make the most money. And as a small or solo studio, I need that revenue in order to make ends meet so I can keep making all the games. People are more reasonable than people think, as long as they know the content's being made, bugs are being worked on, the game is being developed, especially if you're small. If you're small and you're making 3 games, dude, they are totally behind you.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And
Happy Few as a perfect example. How many updates were pushed to We Happy Few as it had been sold several years in advance? How many years in advance was No Man's Sky paid for?
Oh, yeah.
So like, what is your next game? Is it the fighting game you were talking about, or?
Yeah, it's a fighting game. The name of the game is called Fizz Out, and I don't have a trailer for that yet because I'm just been showing the development process. So I've been showing little clips of that and everything. So it's that one is pretty good. I think I can see some stuff with that. Maybe you can play a little bit of that. Let's see. Let me second here. But I've been I started working on this game. I started brainstorming the idea for the game at the beginning of I want to say the beginning of in January, beginning of the year. I started just kind of coming up with little ideas for here and there, and then I was then once February hit, I was like, I'm gonna start working on it. So I like the idea enough and the characters enough, and people. So on TikTok, it seems like people are really gravitating towards the characters and everything. So Like, cause I get a lot of like responses on TikTok for it. So it's very, yeah. So I definitely feel like this is like, okay, yeah, this is it. This is the new joint right here, because just because of just because of like how people are responding to it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just and the crazy part is it's just the characters. Like I haven't really even shown any gameplay.
Oh wow. So are you planning on like releasing a line of merchandise since it seems to really be gaining traction? I think it froze up here.
You mentioned merchandise.
Yeah, yeah.
Nike froze the progress as they're trying to figure out how they can capitalize on that. They broke his connection so they can make more money.
Okay, here we go. Let's get this one going. Let me share my screen. Are you back with us, Ricardo? Yes.
All right, there you go. Okay. So yeah. So yeah. So yeah. This is.
Oh yeah. If you don't mind, can you walk us through this?
Yeah. I'm sorry, it's a little loud.
There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just kind of just showing the character design process, just me working on the characters and everything. So
Good. That's how you want to sell it. This is how
Right.
you want to sell it. It's like, hey, look, it's like you're buying the. If I tell you you're buying the Founders Edition of, we'll say, Mirage, you're buying the Founders Edition of Mirage. Not really. This is what? Assassin's Creed number 8 or whatever. Like, are you gonna be able? But you start to like, yeah, this is the Founders Edition. Here's me drawing the first character. Here's a video of me building the first boss. Here's a bug where I was fighting that boss, and all of a sudden my character just literally fell through the floor. Like,
right.
Like those are the kinds of things that players really like to buy into. Is it's the novelty of the experience of literally watching the game be built. A perfect, more relatable event would be like, I was building a salon, and the salon had a hole in the ceiling when we were first building it, when we were already servicing customers. And I want to say that salon, that the size of that hole was, I want to say 8 by like 9 feet. Like cables were hanging through it. The building had concrete floors. The walls weren't painted or finished. The water didn't run all the way. We had to use water bottles some days. But people love to come there. 1, because of the outcome. 2, because of the experience. And 3, because of being part of the journey. That's part of the gaming industry that's completely abandoned, is being part of the journey. That's the number one mistake of the small studios in terms of the community outreach that they always screw up. Is I would spend 3-4 times more to be part of the journey than to be part of the finished product.
Yeah, I understand that now. You know, so it's like
number 5 otherwise.
Yeah, and but yeah, so that's what it seems like. People are really like I said, I haven't even shown the game, and people already love the 2 characters I've shown. So I'm definitely going to push that. You know, so I'm already thinking about you know, how, like when I'm ready to pitch this to a company, the different angles I could take. I could take the one approach of, hey, look, I'm bringing you a game, but this is a franchise, okay?
No. You're not bringing them a game.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing them an experience.
Okay, I'm bringing you an experience. Okay. And this experience can branch out into multiple things. Like I can show them proof of, look, this is we can do a manga, we can do an anime, we can do all of these things because based on my market research, people love the character.
You're bringing a following.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing an experience that already has a following.
Okay.
That's already headed in several directions.
Right.
They already want title number 2. They're already asking for update number 1. Map pack number 3. They're already asking for characters 5, 6, and 7.
Right.
They're already talking about, when are you going to do the second title? We want more boss fights. What happens in the story? You're selling a journey. And when they hear journey, they hear multiple titles.
Right.
I'm not investing in this for one title. This is something with a following that's already going places. At that point, I'm already hearing titles 2, titles 3, maybe even titles 4. I'm hearing something that's got depth to it. And so the first thing I'm going to ask you for after that is your metrics. That's where you want to have those numbers. It's like, hey, look, I've already gotten people, 1 million people, to pay $1 to buy the game. They don't hear $1. What they heard is you got 1 million sales. Now you got 1 million sales at $1, but the product was ready to be delivered. They can pay the other 29 once it's finished. But then that goes from being $1 million to $30 million for Title 1. No map packs, no expansion packs, no new boss fights, no characters, no skins, no lotto boxes. 30 million scratch.
So if you made $1 million on that first title, are you going to go to a big publisher, or are you just going to say, nah, I made $1 million, I'm going to just stay independent?
I'll probably go to a big publisher if I feel like they could take it in a place that I can't. Or if they could take it to a bigger market that I can't necessarily reach. But that's all relative, because like I said, with this particular product, it's funny because in comparison to my last product, I feel like it had a lot of it was a lot of merchandise that can come from it. But I couldn't see it as like an anime or a movie.
The merch side.
Right, or a movie. But with this particular thing, I could see it. I could see it as all of those things. You see what I'm saying? So if I feel like so if I feel like they can help get the product into a space that I can't, then I probably would still go to a publisher. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I hope we're not keeping you too far over time, man. If you got to go, just let us know.
No, I'm good, man. We can talk a little longer. Sure.
So yeah, what are some of the lessons that you took from the last title to making this title? Like, what's some of the mistakes you're avoiding? What are you continuing?
Well, I'll say mistake number 1 is don't allow it to become stressful. And that was the biggest thing, because it shows in your work when you're having fun. And I think the reason why people like with this particular game, the reason why people gravitate to the characters so much is because I had fun making them. You know what I'm saying? And that's just one of the characters. It was one of the characters, probably my favorite character I've ever created. You know what I'm saying?
One thing I would say really quickly to add to that is what you also have is active feedback based development.
Yes,
when you drop a video, hey, this, and this is what I'm working on, and this, and that, and they're like, oh, we really like that, we really like this, we really like that. Not really sure how I feel about the blah blah, but all this right here is great. And you have a direction to go with that.
Yeah. And what's so interesting too, and I'm kind of seeing hints of this now. It says, I kind of see hints of it now, but I'm also kind of learning to basically get rid of my own expectations, of how I think it's going to go. Because I'm gonna tell you this now, I started working on this game and thinking of it as a fighting game. That was my initial plan, was to make it a fighting game, and that's kind of still my plan. But I am entertaining the idea of possibly changing the genre to something else, only because people like the character so much. You know what I'm saying? So since they like these 2 characters so much, I'm almost questioning myself. Well, should I make it into a different type of game versus the fighting?
Who says you can't have both? It starts as a fighting game, and then it kicks off into an MMO. They escape the space they're currently in, and they get back to the real world, but the real world isn't the real world. or it is the real world, but it's their real world. And now all of a sudden you go from being in this 2D fighting game to a 3D MMO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm taking those things into account because I'm kind of in a way I'm almost I know what I want to do, but I'm almost allowing the feedback to kind of almost help mold it, not to completely shape it, but to kind of help me. Okay, I see people are leaning towards this, so let me push it in this direction a little bit. You see what I'm saying? So so I think that's the one thing I do like about. Say it again.
They like it. Throw them a bone.
Right. So and so one thing with that female character, they like that she's. It's funny because I don't design my characters to be sexual in nature, but
put clothes on a female character, the game is immediately going to sell just because the female character has clothes.
Right, because when I first posted the character design video on TikTok, people was putting like little thirst trap emojis in there. I'm like, oh well, that wasn't my intention, but okay, so I'm like, okay, they like the waifus, what I'm saying, okay, so so that's something I can keep in mind. Like I'm not going to take that route because I'm not going to, certain things I'm not going to
look at when they get knocked out for the 4th time in a row.
Right, you're right. But then with the other character, the male character, he's like he's a black. He's a monk. He's like a black soda monk, but he looks so like adventurous. You know what I'm saying? So these two characters, they're so different from each other, but they work so well together. So it's like if people just love the characters. So I'm using that as that's gonna be my catalyst is. I want to kind of make it so every time I show a new character, I want it to be a big deal, So that's what I'm learning. I'm kind of just learning to kind of shift a little bit based on the feedback I'm getting, So that's one thing I'm doing differently.
Are you kind of like getting publishers involved early, or are you gonna wait till you have a lot more to show?
I'm wait till I have a lot more to show. Yeah, because I. Like the people like it, but the publisher is right now to them is gonna probably look like nothing. They probably like, oh, he's some cool characters, but where's the product? You know what I'm saying? There isn't a product yet. Because I'm taking my time with this one. You know what I'm saying? And then and I'm learning some new things all over again. So I'm kind of taking my time. So what I'm doing is just I'm just working on. I'm really just treating it almost like it's funny. Okay. It's funny. So it's like I'm using the game design process to tell the story of the game at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So I introduce a character. Now I want to start showing some of the environments, and this is going to be the environment they go to after two characters meet for the first time. So I'm kind of almost like I'm telling a story through the game design process and through and yeah, it's interesting. It's a completely different approach. I don't know if it's going to work fully, but I know the mistake I made with my last game was. I didn't show enough of the process. I didn't show enough of the characters. I didn't show enough. I didn't show enough art. I was just showing gameplay, and that wasn't enough.
Do you have like any concerns of potentially showing too much and people are kind of like they lose the surprise factor? And also, what about like people potentially stealing your ideas?
Ooh, that's always a thing. So funny enough, I ain't gonna name no names, but yeah, I've already had people pinch off my ideas before. I have the last game I showed you, Project Remix. There was another game that we had a conversation. We actually had a whole conversation. They started pinching. They they were a little bit more experienced than me in the industry. And they asked me what kind of game I was working on. I showed them the game, and I even showed them the pitch package. And the reason why I showed them all of this stuff is because I was trying to do some like type of collaboration project with them. I had got approached by this opportunity. And I was like, hey, they need me to put together a team. Do you want to be a part of this team? And but this person was a lot more experienced than me. So when I was just sharing, we were just sharing our experiences and stuff like that. And I showed him that game. I showed him the pitch package. Next thing I know. Well, like three months later, he's working on something that looks exactly like what I just showed him. He saw everything. You know what I'm saying? So he saw the pitch package and everything. So I'm sitting here like, wow, you really just pinched off my game. And I confronted him about it. Of course, he denied it. But you know what I'm saying? But I'm like, it's okay. And the reason why I had an attitude was you can pinch off my idea, but you can't do it like I do it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, all right, so cool. Hey, yeah. But it's kind of inevitable. It's gonna I think so. So my answer to that is obviously do what you can, like the copyrights and the trademarks, do what you can in that regards. But it's kind of inevitable because um
I would say
if
don't. I would say that's bad advice.
mhm,
Here's why. And I'll answer two of your components at the same time.
mhm,
I'll start with this and then move to the second one.
mhm,
I'm building a plane.
mhm,
It can fly underwater, it can fly through the air, and it
mhm,
can fly deep space.
mhm,
It's also got faster than light travel.
mhm.
You interested?
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds amazing.
I've got no graphics. I've got no artwork.
Mhm,
I've got no marketing, but I've got a great idea. But you're
mhm,
interested just based on the idea and the value that
mhm,
you, not me, but you can conceptualize.
mhm,
I'm just rattling off different features of something from Star Trek plus the F-35 and a submarine.
mhm,
I'm just spitballing ideas here, but you bought in.
mhm,
It was an immediate yes because it's cool and it's multifunctional
mhm,
and it's versatile. And even if one of them doesn't work, the other two do. And if nothing
mhm,
else, it's got faster than light travel. That's something new and innovative.
mhm, mhm,
That was my first piece. You don't
mhm,
have to have a finished product or even close to a finished product or
mhm,
even a demo for people
mhm,
to buy in. What you have to have is vision. Can I
mhm,
take what I'm seeing in my mind and put that in front of you with what I have currently?
mhm,
I get your buy-in from my vision and make my vision your idea. Because
mhm,
it's a lot easier for me to sell you on your idea than it is for me to sell you on my idea. If
mhm,
it's your idea, you're not going to fight your idea because that means that you're thinking that you yourself are an idiot. And no one likes to think that they're dumb.
mhm,
Everybody likes their own ideas.
mhm.
That's just how people are. And
Right.
so if you can make it their idea and their vision too, it's a lot easier to sell from that perspective. The
Mhm,
issue is you were showing them content through gameplay. You were
mhm,
giving them experiences versus vision. The
mhm,
issue is they were seeing it physically, they were experiencing it, but they can't
mhm,
experience the entire game. It's not done yet.
mhm,
And so they can't see the vision because that's being obstructed by the demo. What you
mhm,
want is give them the demo
mhm,
after you've given them the vision. Because if
mhm,
they see the vision first and then you give them the demo,
mhm,
now they're starting to see the vision come to life.
mhm,
Versus if you give them the demo becomes the vision. And the problem with that is if they don't understand the demo, you've lost the vision.
mhm,
Forward projected, gone. Because all
mhm,
they're going to see is the demo modified and modified and modified and modified, more levels, more stages, more bosses, more places, but it's still the same initial experience. And if I was confused about the initial experience, you're not going to clarify that later. And the
mhm,
issue is if I've got 10,000 people to meet and I'm already confused about your demo, it's not going to work. And that's
mhm,
why you're getting a lot of no's. What you want to do is say, hey, look, here's where I am community wise. Here's where I am initial pre-sales wise. Here's where I am projected sales wise. Here's my market. Here's some of my graphics. Here's some of my artwork.
mhm,
Here's like a 30-second clip of a piece of that after you've already gotten them onto everything else. Because the
mhm,
last piece is this is me delivering on the other things that I said that I would. It's
mhm,
an initial piece of proof of work and proof of value demonstrated prior to proof of work of I can actually deliver this game. And as long as this 30-second clip matches the vision, that's all that matters. The number one thing you're going to find with every AAA studio that they all have in common, the cinematics are never the game.
mhm, mhm.
Literally never. But that's because the cinematic is a piece of the vision, not a piece of the experience. They just
Right.
happen to embed the cinematics into the experience to augment what you already have.
Mhm.
But that's why they do that. It's designed to help to fully immerse you in that experience you're already actively in. But you have to have the vision delivered before you can even get to that, because that was $10 million in graphics and special effects and audio engineering. To even get there, you had to have a budget to land that. And so that's what you're aiming for, is like, hey, look, I'm not asking you for $100 million to build this AAA title. I'm asking you for $100,000 to take what I've already shown you and take that to the initial stages and see if you like it. And if we want to keep committing to that, absolutely, let's do it. And if not, let's look at some of these other projects we can also execute on that also have buy-in. Your 50, 30, 20. Because you can run multiple 50, 30, 20s. Hey, we just got funding, so we're looking at spinning up additional ideas that we're putting into the hopper after we're done. After is the keyword. We're done with these. And if you start getting a bunch more following and a bunch more buy-in for these other titles, you could actually turn right back around to the studio and say, hey, look, we've got this project. It's running. It's funded for this piece. We're definitely going to finish that, but I want to let you know we've got 30 times more interest in this thing over here. What's your thoughts? Because then you can now have them buy into your second idea. And now you have two projects active in concurrency. And you have an additional budget for additional funding and additional manpower. And then you have the ability to borrow manpower between projects. Especially if your initial project is a flop, you can transfer everybody over into the second project. And you can borrow manpower and vice versa. That's what Elon does with his companies. He has 3 different companies, and they all borrow the same manpower. Because if they've got available cycles, they finish their initial core work, and then they have their auxiliary work with the other company that they work on in tandem. And so this is their 70-30 split, and they've got their primary project and their secondary project, and it keeps them across 2 different billing charge codes.
And I know you've been kind of like a one-man team. Is there a reason that you haven't worked with other developers? Is it because you don't want that to compromise your vision, or is it?
No, not necessarily. I'll go into that in 1 second. But let me go back to what he was saying. But everything that he was saying, I could totally agree with. Now, what we were talking about in regards to protecting your things from being stolen. That's what we were talking about. So yeah, I agree with what he was saying, but no, I just want to just go back to what I was saying in regards to that. It's kind of you can't really avoid that fully. So only thing you can do is just do what you can do. Is to get something, to get whatever you can trademark. But other than that, it's kind of inevitable. That's what the internet does. They want to. People are going to pick off your ideas. You know what I'm saying? Or people are going to be inspired by your ideas, but they're not going to always tell you that they are. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this: have you ever seen a knockoff Tesla?
No, I haven't seen one.
You want to know why? All of Elon's technology inside the Tesla is open source. It's open source and openly available. The reason why you're not seeing a knockoff is because the fact that it's advancing so quickly, no one's trying to knock it off. Because advancing and prototyping and second and artificial versioning so quickly, people that would want to knock it off, that would try to knock it off, can't afford to knock it off. Because by the time they get a knockoff, they're already 5 versions ahead of the knockoff that they made. And they're just out of date. You want to do something similar. Instead of spending the hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars on trademarking and copywriting and patenting, what you do is you produce the product, and the quality is so vastly superior to what any knockoff can get. You can get knockoff Coca-Cola. Everybody's seen Sam's Cola. Everybody's seen whatever the other ones are. I mean, Sam's Cola, the only one that comes to mind. But I don't even know the names of the knockoffs, even though I walk past them all the time in Dollar General. And that's because they just don't compete in terms of quality. So I don't bother to learn their names, even though I know for a fact they're half the price. It's the quality at the end of the day that matters. Back before World of Warcraft took a total nosedive because they stopped listening to their PvE players and their interests because they focused on PvP. And for some reason, trying to go into the esports space, which destroyed their business and lost them 70% of their customer base. they just made a game that was phenomenal, and they were constantly driving great experience and great content and great vision. And because of that, there were tons of other MMOs that were out at the same time. There was Terra, there was Guild Wars, there was what was it, RuneScape. All those games were out there, and none of them held a candle. Darkfall, they all fell to the wayside for WoW. It dominated the space. And it wasn't because of patents or copyrights or trademarks. It was because of the fact that they made an experience that was worth having.
Okay.
It wasn't whether or not you played WoW. It was, what did you play aside from WoW? The assumption was you already played the first. What's the second that you're also playing? That's where you want to be in your experience. Focus more on that. Focus on dominating that space by simply being the best experience. The money finds its way to you.
Right. Now, so what I was saying in regards to that is, with this person that did pinch off my ideas, I already said and made it clear that they didn't do it as well.
Oh, we could just ask.
You know what I'm saying? So even though they were able to get their product fully developed, it didn't have the same nuances or complexity as mine did. So I didn't even view it as, I was like, okay, well, it's whatever. You can do your thing. You can never do it like me. You know what I'm saying? So what I did was I just bowed out gracefully. I was like, okay, well, I was already done working with this particular project, so I'm moving on to the next. When it's time for me to come back to, it's going to bury yours. You know what I'm saying? So what I was saying, as far as the trademarks and stuff like that, that's one way you can do to try to protect your product. But it's inevitable. People, if somebody's inspired by your thing, they're going to pinch off it anyway. So your best bet is to either, like you said, get it out there as quickly as possible with the best quality as possible, or you know what I'm saying, or or do the trademark thing. You know what I'm saying? But
Nintendo the shit out of them.
Yeah, you know. So yeah, that's one thing. Now I'm not going back to your other question, Kevin. I've been a sole developer all the way up until this time. It's not necessarily because I wanted to. I've always expressed interest in working with other people, but if I could be honest, like I feel like that never works out. and it's not because I'm pretty easy to work with. I'm very down to earth. I'm very open. But I think a couple of things happen when people try to work with me. Is I think one of the things is because I have such a passion for what I'm doing, is that I think they get slightly intimidated. So and so it starts to become a competition after a while. And I'm like, I'm not, I don't do this. You know what I'm saying? I was like, what is it? I just want us to work together and make something, you know? So I started kind of feel, it starts to become like a thing of people trying to flex their muscles to show how much more they know. And I'm like, no, I just want to work on something together and make something fun. You know what I'm saying? So, so it's not, I'm not against working with people. I want to, but it's just that, it just never works out for some reason, you know? So I kind of just got to the point where I was like, well, I guess I just have to do this on my own. You know what I'm saying? I think everybody wants to, because I think you know what it is. I'm not gonna say intimidation. Let me retract that. I would say what it is. I think people see the fire that I have for when I'm working on something, that it inspires them. So because they're inspired, they want to take over. And because it's like, oh wow, you know, because that's what happens. I feel like when people work with me or they see what I'm working on, they get pumped to do something. And but then what happens is they start to make it into a competition when it's not supposed to be.
The fires don't merge, they collide.
Right. That's what ends up happening. And so I'm glad I'm able to inspire people. But because of that, I feel like I never. I feel like I attract a lot of people that want everybody wants to be in the front.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But they may not have the either the tenacity or the skill set to do so. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I'm amazing, like this amazing person. But what I'm saying is that that's just something I've just noticed. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have a problem working with a team. I would love to. You know what I'm saying? I don't even have a problem even being in the back. Being in the background. You know what I'm saying? But it's just I just think sometimes my excellence when I'm working on something, it just makes people respond a certain way. Yeah. And so it's just so I just found it easier just to kind of work by myself.
One piece of advice that I would give you that I think will help you a lot, and it's something that I had to ultimately come to the conclusion of myself. You can either work on the business or in the business, but not both.
That's what you said. Yeah, no, that's right. That's
So like when you did work with people and you know they had a slightly divergent vision of the product, how did you like, handle that?
Okay, well, I try my best to be very very logical. So I remember I had a situation where we were working with a team, and we only had 2 weeks to work on the product. You know, so we spent like, no, it was 2 weeks, about 3 weeks, I think. 3 weeks to a month. And I think we spent a whole week, you know, brainstorming ideas for this particular project, right? Now, mind you, the project didn't have to be perfect. It just needed to be done. And because once the project was done and we met the deadline, then they was going to fund us to do the whole thing. You see what I'm saying? So they need to be perfect, and I kept that in mind. You know, so I was the one that was leading this project because they chose me to lead it, the event. So I was like, okay. So I had to bring on a team of people, and they wanted the game to be made in Unity. So I had to take the background a little bit because, all right, they put me in the forefront because I worked with these people before, so they wanted me to lead the team, and they was paying each of us X amount of money to do this. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, so guys, this is what we're gonna do. Like, so I said, all right, so I'm not, I don't know how to use Unity because that's not the program I use. So I found people that knew how to use it. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, so you know how to use Unity. So I got two programmers. I was gonna do the art. And I got somebody to do the music. So we spent a week brainstorming, you know, come up with the ideas for the project, and everything was flowing, right? And then I had one person that didn't necessarily know how to program as good as he said he did at the time, you know, and so that was kind of messing things up. So I did what I thought was right at the time, and I think this is where I probably made a mistake. I did what I thought was right, and I was like, okay, dude. I'm sorry, we're gonna have to maybe take you off the project because like, you know, I need you to produce and you're not, you know, and we don't got that much time, you know what I'm saying? And so he wasn't really contributing like I feel like everybody else was, and I felt so bad doing it, but I felt like that was the right thing to do at the time.
Don't.
And
don't
so
ever feel bad.
Yeah, I did. I felt terrible though. I did. Because he was a friend too, you know. So
Yeah.
So now, but now this is the catch-22. So I asked one of the guys on the team. He knew somebody else to bring on that was a programmer, and I brought them on. And when I brought him on, I told him we went over what we already had, and this is what we've been thinking. This is what we've been brainstorming. And he was like, "Okay, I like this. I think we should change this and change that, and change this and change that." And I was like, "Okay." And you know, so I was open to it. So we were all brainstorming some new ideas, but it got to the point where I feel like we were doing so much brainstorming that nothing was being done. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, look, y'all, this is what I think we need to do. The ideas the parts you're talking about changing. I'm having trouble grasping the vision of what you're trying to say. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying what I have is perfect, but what the ideas you're trying to say is that the rest of the team is getting it, but I'm not. You know what I'm saying? So because I'm not getting it as well, I just think that we just need to let's just make the game based on what we already had, and then when the game gets picked up, we can rework everything all over again. But we need to do something.
That's
you know,
exactly right.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So, but when I did that, everybody felt like I was being a tyrant at that point, and because remember I just kicked somebody off the team. And now I'm like kind of in a way kind of almost undermining everybody else because everybody was on board with this new idea of shifting things, but I didn't understand what he was trying to do. I didn't understand the vision of it. It just wasn't clicking with me. So because it wasn't clicking with me, I'm like, I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? I don't get it. It may be a better idea. I'm not saying it's not, but I just don't get it. You know what I'm saying? To me, it sounded like it made what we had a little bit more complicated, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So so I just think we should just focus on what we already had, just so we can get something done. Because we did a whole nother week of brainstorming new ideas. It was too much time. You see what I'm saying? So so that's why I was like, all right, yeah, I think I had to put my foot down a little bit. And I was like, look, y'all, I'm gonna put my foot down. Let's just focus on what we have, and then we can always rework it later.
Yeah.
Wow, when I did that, people was like, you know what, I don't think I want to do this no more. And it became this whole thing. And I'm gonna tell you something too. Now, this is what happened. So eventually the whole team fell apart, right? And a lot of you not. I'm gonna be 100 with you. I'm not trying to be too deep or too spiritual. A lot of you not. A week before all this happened, every day I felt like the Lord was telling me to read the story about Judas, about Judas betraying Jesus. Right? I read the story every day. He had me read the story every day for a week. I'm like, why am I reading this? I know the story. He betrayed him. Jesus died. Blah blah. I knew the story. So I'm like, why am I reading this? And then so then after the team fell apart, that was that. So I thought. So then I found out that everybody after the team fell apart, I talked to Google and I said, hey, the team, we kind of having a clash of ideas. It's not working out. I think we might, and so people start dropping off the team. I know we don't have enough time to find new team members, so I think we just have to just call it a quits, right? So then come to find out, after that, after the team fell apart, they formed a new team on the side, and then they went back to Google, and they went through with they took the idea that we came up with together, and went back to Google and did this whole thing. And I was like, oh, that's why I was reading that scripture, So it still hurt, but it was less of a blow. You know what I'm saying? Because I already had an inkling, indirectly, that was going to happen. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so that's what happened. That was the last time I really worked with a team. And like I said, everything, like I was really trying to be a team player. I was really I had to make some tough decisions that I didn't want to make. But everything fell apart after that. So yeah. I mean, so basically, if I hope to answer your question, it's not that I don't want to work on the team. It's just I just haven't had the best of experiences with it, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing that I would throw in there with that is with your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Starting there. Never feel bad about removing a player from the field. You're not necessarily removing them forever. You're just removing them for now. And that may be for the fact that if you're going into an all-mage battle and you've got a paladin on the front line, G's awesome, but G's got to go.
Yeah.
Son, this is a magic battle, and you in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is going to go sideways. You got to go. Not that you got to go, but you got to go. And the thing with that is look at it from this perspective. I'm not kicking you off the team. I'm removing you from play. So I can put a player in that does fit this requirement well.
Right.
And that's because look at it from this perspective. And this is where a lot of people's pride gets in the way of their own success. If my name is attached to a title, even though I started at the beginning and then I got pulled out halfway through because of the fact that my part's done, I'm still part of that achievement. If that title goes to AAA status, I'm still on a AAA title.
Right.
I still hit a home run. I was part of that team. There's nothing wrong with I'm an infrastructure, I'm a security, I'm a cyber guy. I come in, I build the entirety of the infrastructure, everything's up and running. And the developers are like, hey, man, thanks for helping us out. We got the rest. Fantastic, bro. Let me know what other titles we need to work on, or other projects, or other companies even. And then as you're finishing that title, I'm still a part of that team. I was still there in the beginning. And you can always be brought back after the fact. It's like, hey, look, we need a networking programmer. You're not a networking programmer. I need to pull you off the project and sideline you because I have limited budget. I need to put in a networking programmer who specializes in networking programming.
Right.
In this 2-week project to kick open the 2-year plan. And that's how you can run that.
Okay, I like that.
People understand that. It's like, hey, look, I'm not kicking you off the team because I want to. I need to pull you onto the bench so that I can put the guy in who can hit this thing the rest of the way. You help me load the bases. Now I need a home run hit.
Yeah.
And you're a bases loader, and I need a grand slam guy. And I just dropped my grand slam guy in. He hit the grand slam. Now we got a 2-year project. Let's put you back on that in the areas that you excel in. For the second component, as a leader, you're not always going to know exactly what's going on. You're not always going to understand what's going on. What you can understand in 100% of circumstances, and I personally advocate for this, is that you can believe in your team. You can trust your team. If you have somebody on your team that you don't trust, get rid of them immediately. Because it doesn't matter if they can perform or not. If you don't believe that they can perform, you will end up handicapping them simply because you don't believe in them. You will impede their progress as a leader. And if you truly believed in that person and you truly wanted what was best for them, you would cut their losses immediately and help them get to a leader that can believe in them for whatever reason that you cannot. And that sets them up for success. And that allows you to bring in somebody that you can believe in, that allows you to set them up for success.
Right.
So that way, when you find yourself in a position to where your team is all on the same page, but you just can't understand it, that's okay. You can communicate that to management. Hey, look, the team is super excited. We're pumped. We're on project. We're on schedule. We're under budget. They've got a vision. I don't necessarily understand it all. If you'd like to talk with them to see if you can understand it all, that's fantastic. If you don't want to take that meeting, we'll go ahead and hit that home run there. We'll bring you that and show you what that looks like. If you don't like it, we can just throw another 2 weeks at this and some more budget, and we can see what direction you do want it to go in. But what they will see is the team believes in you. You believe in the team. You have a vision. You delivered that vision. It may not be the correct direction, but you only lost 2 weeks. A company like Google, you delivered something in 2 weeks. They are automatically excited. You got a team, you motivated that team, you leaded that team, you achieved an objective. It may not have been in the same vertical, but it was in the same vector. Now, we just might need to shift that bad boy left a little bit to hit target. But you know what? You already hit the first target.
Yeah, I like that.
I have confidence you'll hit the second one if I give you some more additional guidance. And that's all you got to do. Is like, hey, look, team with limited guidance, we came together, we put together a plan, we agreed to the plan, we executed the plan, we made some team changes to make sure we could hit that target. We hit the target. You want us to shift left? Fantastic. Let's make that happen. We hit that left, shift left. Then fantastic. Now we're on the 2-year. Bring your friend back. Team's happy. Team's excited. Team knows their leadership supports them. You're good to go. Now, one thing I do not agree with and do not like is the fact that they tried to steal your project and then eventually did steal your project by sabotaging you intentionally. That is a staff you do not want to work with. Trust.
Yeah, dude, it's fascinating. It was an interesting experience, but and I totally agree with what you're saying. Cause it was a lesson well learned. I don't always have to understand. I just, like you said, I don't have to understand. I can just, if they get it, and I can just support what they're doing, and I'm like, okay, guys, all right, cool. So I get that. I like that approach as well. But I will say this in the future, because I don't want to do the solo thing forever. I don't. I'm not gonna pretend like I do. I like it because I have creative, freedom, obviously. But I think my new approach is gonna be this. I know because I have the vision in the creative direction of it, I'm gonna be just that. So I think in the future, even with this particular project, I'm going to put as much work into setting the vision and making the plane, making it understandable. This is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. This is what it sounds like. You know what I'm saying? Because I can hit all those points, because I can hit the programming, I can hit the art, and I can hit the music. I can establish what I want those 3 pillars to look like, feel like, and sound like. So now when I go find a team, like, here, this is what I have. This is how I want it to look. This is how I want it to feel. And this is how I want it to sound. And now they can be like, okay, now we got something to work with. So they'll just build on the foundation I already laid. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what I'm gonna do moving forward.
The best advice that I can give you for that is your mistake that you made last time was you needed to build an aircraft, so you hired a bunch of aircraft engineers.
Right.
The problem is what you needed to do was go out and hire a bunch of helicopter mechanics and helicopter engineers. Same principles, same concepts, different innovation and implementation.
Right.
And the logic behind that is simple. If I go out and I hire a bunch of people from Ford to build a car, they're going to build a Ford. because they build Fords.
Ah,
They're Ford engineers. If I
right,
go out and I hire an airplane engineer, they're gonna make what they think is an airplane.
right. Oh,
I think it froze up. But yeah, until he comes back.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, like I know you're a man of faith. Do you like weave the lessons of the Bible into your games? Like,
yes, yeah, yeah. I can put it in almost every game that I make. It may not. It's so great. Like I think one of the awesome things about I guess if I go a little bit into my gifting, one of the awesome things about having a prophetic gifting sometimes is that I put things in the game that I didn't even know was prophetic sometimes until and I would end up seeing it later when I'm like, oh, so it's like it's amazing, so that's one of the things I really cherish between me and my relationship with God sometimes is that sometimes he'll give me an idea for something and I don't understand why, but I was like, okay, well, that's a cool idea. I put it in there. So so yeah, so almost everything that I make, not almost everything that I make, I always put a little bit of God in everything I make. It's not always clear at the beginning. Like with this project, I don't see it yet. You know what I'm saying? But as I'm working on it, it's gonna start making sense. I'm like, oh, okay, I see. So God, this is what you want me to do here. Got it.
was there anything you ever had to remove because like maybe it was offensive to God or
Oh,
tone this back a little bit?
no, I don't think I've ever had to do that. I have to. I would question certain things. So for example, um, this one thing I've been writing this story. Um, I've been writing a story about I can't. I'm not gonna really go into what it's about. But I remember while writing the story, um, I heard him say, you need to incorporate the legend of Atlantis into the story, and I'm like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like that doesn't to me that doesn't sound like a very godlike story. So I'm like, why would I incorporate this in there? And then I listened. I was like, okay, so I incorporated it in there. And then as I started doing my I love I'm a Bible geek, so I love looking into like the history and all the ancient history and all of the stuff. So I love that stuff. So as I started looking up into the stuff, the story that he gave me for incorporating Atlantis into my story, it started lining up with certain things that happened in the ancient scriptures and all this other stuff. And I started seeing how it connected to Noah. It's amazing. You see what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? So I don't think I've ever had anything I had to remove because it went against God, but I'm not against it. You know what I'm saying? Either. So if I feel like he would show me something, then I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe I should take that out. But I've questioned certain things at times, but I think excuse me, I kind of broken out of that religious mindset of certain things. So sometimes I feel like with the church they're so religious that they're of no use. Sometimes you know what I'm saying because they think that they think that they know the proper way to do things, and God is like, well, no, I want you to do it this way. But you're right. They're trying so hard to be Christian that they're not being. If that makes any sense, you know what I'm saying. So it's just like because Christian media is terrible. Like it is trash. You know what I'm saying? And when I remember when I first became a Christian, I was like, all right, I was like, Lord, if I'm gonna do this Christian thing, this Christian media gotta go. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like I went through like in some ways I went through like a spiritual creative boot camp. In some ways, because I'm like, all right, so I know how to put the things of God in my stories without it feeling intrusive, but it also it's also feeling so people will get the message they need to get, but then the people that really know that know the word or know the word of God, they will see it. You see what I'm saying? Because I mean, it's the same thing that they already do now with media on TV. You got one of my favorite shows is Avatar: Last Airbender. And it's Buddhism listed all through Avatar: The Last Airbender. You see what I'm saying? So I'm really not doing anything different than that. I know how to present it in a way where it doesn't feel like you're getting this is a Christian product, and I don't want to watch this. You see what I'm saying? I just know how to put those things into my story where it's still interesting, it's still intriguing. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to convert and become a Christian just because I watch Avatar: The Last Airbender doesn't mean I'm gonna become a Buddhist, but I understand the story that you're telling.
Mhm.
You know, so yeah.
So you're teaching them a lesson, but you're not bashing them over the head with it.
Yeah, basically, that's basically, and I do it in an interesting way. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'll give you a little bit of a little example of that. So in the story, the Project Remix story, the story is basically this. The story starts off with this big music festival, and this festival is something that gets celebrated every 7 years, right? And so even with the numbers I use, they all mean something, you know. So this big music festival is celebrated every 7 years. So in the story, I call them deities, but they're actually angels. So every 7 years, these different deities from different parts of the world come together into this one city to have this big celebration of music, and each of the angels represent a particular genre of music. So during the celebration, it came time for the last angel to do his part of the celebration. So he had his music genre he represented was the DJing genre. And so what happens is he doesn't have any powers of his own. So what happens is all the other angels they have to give their music powers to him for him to be able to mix it and do the DJ thing with it. You know what I'm saying? But when it's his turn to celebrate to do his little performance, he keeps the power for himself, and he decides to turn on all the other angels, and he decides to hypnotize the entire city with music
Ooh.
and takes over. So that right there's the story of Lucifer.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So yeah, that's how I mix the Christianity in my stories. Is I take those stories and I'm like, okay, how can I tell this in a different way? And I feel like God kind of he kind of showed me how to do that. And that's what that spiritual creative boot camp I have. Now I know how to mix and intermingle all those things, all the different stories in the Bible into a different product.
Well, that's the number one mistake that's made by most Christians is the vast majority of the Bible, with rare exception, is more of stories and parables for wisdoms
Exactly.
and principles.
Exactly.
And it's designed to build a framework of morality for you to live by. It's a way of life. It's a way of faith.
Mhm.
It's a walk. It's a path. It's a journey. It's not verse 17, line 6, said by Isaiah is this. Isaiah is not the word of God unless he
Exactly.
dictated.
Exactly.
God told him to tell you. It is not the word of God. If you look at the Bible, they say the Bible is the word of God. No, it's not. The Bible is a collection. It's a literal library by the legal definition. It's a library of multiple testimonies of multiple prophets and multiple disciples and witnesses of the walk and life of Christ, both before and during and after. Very, very few by number of lines and number of sentences are the actual words of Christ or the actual words of God. Very little. But that's where the common misconception comes, and one of the core mistakes of our faith come from is the fact that every single word is interpreted as if it was the word of God, and it is not.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I see exactly what you're saying, because I think, for example, this is one of the examples I use all the time about when I talk about this, right? And so this type of stuff that gets you crucified if you say it. So, but this is one example I use. Like most Christians, their favorite person in the Bible isn't Jesus. Their favorite person in the Bible is Paul, because Paul is more relatable to the narrative that they want to have, and that's I'm gonna tell you what I mean. So people like Paul because Paul was very direct with his message. He's very in your face with his message, but the difference is he had to be, because he was dealing with a lot of Jews that knew the truth, but they didn't want to accept the truth. Jesus was very a lot more softer, because he was dealing with people that didn't know who God was, or people that never had an encounter with God. So people like taking Paul's approach, not knowing that Paul's approach was set that way for a particular reason. He had his approach with him being very, very direct was because he was dealing with a lot of hard-headed Jews that knew Jesus was real, but they trying to pretend like they didn't know. You know what I'm saying? So, but a lot of Christians, they like that part, but they don't like the loving part that Jesus did. You see what I'm saying? So people think just because Paul was like this, and just because it's in the Bible, this is how I'm supposed to be. No, that's not. Even Paul himself said that you can prophesy, you can do all these amazing things, but if you don't have love, then it means nothing. You see what I'm saying? So that's what it is, dog. Like a lot of people, they will read something in the Bible and they'll think that this is how it's supposed to go. But sometimes some of those things in the Bible is a lesson. You know what I'm saying? This is not what necessarily God is not saying you need to be in your face. It's funny. I made like a little video about this recently, and in the video I drew like a little illustration, and I was talking about how how people like we're called to be the light of God, right? And when you're the light of God, all you have to do is just step into a room, and that light that comes from you will start to reveal things that's hidden in the dark. But a lot of times Christians, they like to hold their light and shoot it out like a Kamehameha wave. You know what I'm saying? And they like to hit people with their little beams of light, and they think that's how what being a Christian is. No, sometimes being a good Christian is just being in that environment. I dare say that most of the time Jesus was minding his business, being a light, and people came to him.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying, but it was never Jesus had to go punch somebody in the face. You know what I'm saying, and that's Christians' approach. Christians want to have that approach.
He hit a few people, but they deserved it.
Right. But those right. So
the tabernacle was one of them.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But people like that part.
Yeah.
But they don't. Like. And there's a time and place for everything. But people like that aggressive part, but they don't like that passive part.
Well, my favorite part is Saul. My favorite prophet and disciple of all is Saul.
Mm-hmm.
It shows the perfections and imperfections simultaneously of the ideal disciple. The fact that Saul murdered more Christians than anybody else combined is a perfect demonstration of the path of redemption. He was a killer. He tortured people to death in the multitudes. He killed cities worth of people, and God used him.
Absolutely.
The fact that you could use someone who was a mass murderer and still use them as part of your faith, convert them from that far of an extreme from one side to the other, is a demonstration of the level of the breadth of forgiveness. And that is something that people do not understand as far as the East is from the West. That just sounds like lyrics. When you realize the real living amplification of that was Saul, who used to murder Christians by simply just seeing one, to one of the most active advocates in existence. That's what he means. When you look at things like Psalms, it's a great example is Psalms. Is there are so many components to Psalms, and King David himself who wrote it, and the components of the arrogance and the downfall and the re-rise of David, and the Psalms and all the stories and components of wisdom and grace and understanding and humility and patience and kindness and caring and love, and all of those characteristics that are embodied in those books by David and also by the Psalms chapter itself. Those are components to what is the practice of the faith. The understanding of the faith is in the components of things like Ruth and Magdalene and Saul. The fact that he sent Noah into the belly of a fish as the I'm just gonna have a whale eat you. That seems like a good lesson. You know, solitary confinement is 700 feet beneath the surface of the ocean. Like, his lessons were eccentric. It reminds me of the movie Anger Management. Where the guy's methods were like extreme, but they were super effective because they were so extreme. It's a perfect example of exactly that. And I think that people who are Christian and people who are Christian, there is a massive breakdown in those two peoples. And I think the perfect example of the outcome is the ending chapters related to Sodom and Gomorrah. It's the people who walk the faith aren't going to look back because they don't need to. There's nothing to say goodbye to. There's nothing to bid farewell. There's no attachments. It's Saul was murdering Christians, and now he's saving Christians.
Right.
And that history is history. It doesn't matter how big the mountain of bodies was. That's gone. The second you convert, that's washed away. That is the totality of that is zeroed out. It's gone.
Right.
The only thing you have is the future. And that's the component that so many Christians really suffer from being able to understand is, and I struggle with it too. And it's being able to understand once you make that change, the past doesn't exist anymore. And it's just, well, with rare exceptions, there's I think like 2 or 3 components to that, to where God has no forgiveness. And that was, I think if I'm not mistaken, edicted by the words of God. And one of them was the blaspheming of the Spirit. And if you blaspheme the Spirit, God said there is no forgiveness for you. There is no redemption. And that's not my call. But I mean, everybody's got a line. I guess God's is that one. So, and I think the other fascinating component to it is Christians struggle to realize that line exists, and not with the extremes of you'll never be forgiven, but the extremes of once you are forgiven, and they can't get past the they're sinners and they're X and they're Y and there's Z, not even realizing that you're passing judgment on someone simply because. And that's understandable, but the component to that is once they convert, once they seek forgiveness, once they invite Christ into their life, that history no longer exists. And if we truly walk the faith as Christ did, that doesn't exist anymore. He doesn't carry that with him. He doesn't, well, I wrote it in the book. You got 6 pages in here, but only 2 got stuff written on them. No, it's like those other 4 they were ripped from the books. They don't, as if they never existed, as if it never happened. And there's only been 2 pages, and there is only 2 pages, and that's it. As far as Christ is concerned, as far as God is concerned, as far as judgment is concerned, there's only 2 pages to consider. Everything else is non-existential. And that's one of the biggest failures from a Christian's perspective, from my perspective, from my observations in the walk of the faith, is people in their imperfections are not able to walk as Christ did, though he walked as us on the earth.
Right.
His ability to seek forgiveness, to see forgiveness, to give forgiveness, and to comprehend forgiveness. His comprehension of the faith was at a level far beyond what I feel anybody will ever be able to achieve. I mean, the idea of you just axe murdered 100 million people, and like you invite Christ into your life, and all of a sudden that never happened. Most people can't grasp that concept.
Yeah, absolutely, man, and so I definitely agree with that. Like, like so. Go back to what we're talking about. I don't believe that you need to bash people over the head with the Christian message. I believe that is that powerful that all you gotta do is just light a match and it will spread. That's it. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with that. I'm never going to. That's why I don't even call myself a Christian game developer. And the reason why I don't is because I'm a Christian that just so happens to make games. And so when I make my games, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like the guy that the 2 guys that made Avatar: The Last Airbender, I wouldn't be. They most likely they're probably Buddhists, because that's the religion that they were really pushing in the Avatar: The Last Airbender, but they're not going to say I'm a Buddhist animator. They're going to say I'm an animator. I just so happen to be a Buddhist, and I put some of these elements into my product. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. So that's kind of my approach. I put whatever. So a lot of times I'll come up with the idea before I even figure out how to incorporate God into it, or it could be the other way around. I get an idea and I'm like, I should make something centered around that. that theology that I feel like God has dropped in my mind. You know what I'm saying? So it depends. Yeah.
Well, I think the number one issue with people and religion as a whole is people see religion as a condition or a status, like a status effect,
They do.
instead of seeing it as what it is, which is a direction.
Mhm.
Buddhists are going in one direction.
Mhm.
They're walking faith. Christians are going another direction. They so happen to be going in the relative same-ish direction if you're of the Abraham religions. And the Jews and the Muslims and the Christians, we happen to be walking in a very similar direction in a cone. And it happens to be going ish that way.
Yeah.
And then you've got the atheists going in pretty much the complete opposite direction of all three as much as possible. Buddhists are somewhere in the in-between. They're all directions. And you can't be a direction. You can only travel in a direction. You can only go in a direction. And it's totally okay to encounter someone and say, hey, look, our paths are going in very different directions. And my faith is taking me this way. And your ideologies or your personal politics or beliefs are taking you in that direction. And those directions just, they're not cohesive. And that's
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm never gonna make somebody feel bad about what they practice. That's not my job. But a lot of Christians think that's their job.
Yeah,
that's my
the
job
fire
is
and brimstone guys. Yeah.
right. Yeah, my job is just to be a light. Because what's going to happen is they're going to eventually see that there's something different about you, and they're going to start asking you questions. I don't got to throw Jesus at you, but you're going to see the Jesus that's in me. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, but I don't think. First of all, the first thing we call to do is love people. But you got a lot of the fire and brimstone Christians will be like, well, I am loving them by telling the truth. Yeah, but this person don't know you. So you just walking up to some random Buddhist on the street, tell them that everything that they know, that everything that they think about like this. Some these are people grew up in these religions, so this is all that they know. So they truly believe that what they're doing, this is their truth. You see what I'm saying? They truly believe that this is the actual truth. So you coming in there telling them otherwise, that's not going to cut it. You know what I'm saying? All you got to do is step in the scene, be a light. It's really that simple. When Jesus came, he literally put everything on easy mode.
Yeah.
But Christians keep trying to switch it back to hard mode.
Well, I have a saying for that I think is highly effective, which is people you waterboard aren't thirsty. If you try to make someone drink it or you torture them with it, they will never consume it. The idea of being a Christian is to lead them to water in the desert. They are lost souls in the desert, and we are leading them to the oasis. They don't have to drink. You can die of thirst in the oasis. People have starved to death in cities full of food. It's just, it happens to be what it happens to be. But I can lead you. I can, as you were saying, be that beacon. I can be the guide to where you need to be. I am the light in the middle of the desert, burning in the oasis. And you can walk to that light where the water is and the food is, or you can keep walking into oblivion, and you may or may not find another light within your time frame before you die of exhaustion or starvation or thirst in the desert. And it'll be what it'll be.
Right.
But no pressure. You can believe if you want to believe. It's the same thing I did with my kids. I don't even push my faith on my kids. My kids adopted my Christian faith because they wanted to believe. Same with my wife. There was no requirements. She wasn't like a hardcore Christian. She saw me and my consistency with my faith, my active practice with my faith, the kindness that I show other people because of my faith and who I am and what my faith has made me into. And that made her want to be part of that. My kids naturally picked that up and they started practicing. They wanted their own cross. My son first, and now my daughter, and hopefully my other daughter, and my older daughter, maybe. I don't know. But if you are the beacon and you're at the oasis because you're where you're supposed to be as a Christian, that's the key point, where you are supposed to be as a Christian, where God told you to be. If you listen and you're at where you're supposed to be, people will come to your beacon.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're lost in the desert too, you got to be found yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Christian.
Yeah. And absolutely. Like, and it's like I already know some of the things that I think when it comes to certain things are a little controversial. But I'm okay with that because I feel like you don't get nowhere if you don't push the edge a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So some of the things, like for example, I'm gonna give you an example.
People don't like the idea that Jesus wasn't white. I'll pick that can
No.
right away. Jesus was not white. I regret to inform you, but not really.
Right. So I'm gonna give you a good example of this. Right. Do you guys? It's a story in the Bible. I can't remember exactly where it's at. And basically in the story, it was these I think it was like three men. They were like spies, and they were going into a city to spy out, to search out and see what's going on, because they were about to come. God was about to get ready to send them to send the nation of Israel to overtake to overthrow the city. So when they were discovered that they were spies, they were kind of on the run a little bit, and this woman that lived in the city took them in. And she took them in while to keep them safe while they so they can get away. So the guy told them, he said, because you kept us safe when we need it, we're gonna when we come to overtake the city, we're not gonna harm you. So just put a red flag, or like I think she had a red scarf hanging from your window, and when we see that red scarf, we'll know not to go and raid your your dwelling, right? So now I'm telling you this for an example. So now I'm gonna take that story and I'm gonna flip it. Now, my roommate that I had back when I was living in New York, he passed away a couple of years ago.
Sorry for your loss.
Well, thank you. Oh, no, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And yeah, he passed away a couple of years ago. And when we went to the funeral, I had some. They gave me let me say some words, and I told him, I said, look, my roommate, he wasn't, I'm not saying that he wasn't, I think he did give his life to Christ at one point, but he wasn't really a practicing Christian. You know what I'm saying? But I told this to everybody at the service, and some of them looked at me like I was crazy. I said, I believe he's in heaven right now. I'm gonna tell you why I believe that. Is because, and I use that story for example. And I said, he took me in when I really needed help, and he didn't have to. I didn't have a place to go. I didn't know where I was gonna, it was one of those things. I didn't know where I was gonna go, and he took me in when I didn't have to, and I feel like God told me when he passed away, because he treated you with kindness when you needed the help, I accept him for it. And so just like so I believe that he made it to heaven just because he took in the man of God that he didn't have to. He treated me just like the men that walked past the guy that was beaten on the road in Samaria. You know what I'm saying? So just by default, because he accepted me and he accepted the God in me, God took him with him just because of that. And he didn't even have to meet the so-called requirements to make it to heaven. You see what I'm saying? And I know that's some people won't really agree with that. But like I said, there's countless amount of stories in the Bible of an adaptation, for example. You know what I'm saying? Where this person wasn't necessarily an Israelite, they wasn't necessarily this or that, but God still accepted them. You see what I'm saying? And so I know a lot of times when I say certain things, it's controversial, but there's stories in the Bible that has examples of this. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's I know how I think is a little interesting, but yeah.
I know it's getting kind of late, man, but another quick question.
Yeah.
Do you ever find like any conflicts in the industry, like because you are a Christian? Is there like certain issues you run into, or
No. Okay. And it's for pretty much everything that we've been talking about. I don't lead with that. I don't lead with my spirituality. That's something they usually find out later on.
Mm-hmm.
So I always get the response of, "Oh, you're a Christian. Oh, you're really cool for a Christian."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're very, they will see the characteristics long before they know my faith.
Mm-hmm.
They will see the fruit before they know the faith. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have to. So I never ran into any issues with that because I'm just genuinely a nice person. Now, but there is an opposite where I will run into people will just meet me and they just won't like me. for no reason.
Mm.
And it's probably a spirit or whatever that's on them. But sometimes I can just walk into a room and somebody just won't like me.
Yeah.
I didn't do nothing. I just shined a light, and unfortunately, my light exposed your darkness.
Right.
And just by me walking into the room, I didn't have to say nothing to you. You know, so that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, guys, I know it's getting late. Did y'all have any closing thoughts?
No. This has been great. Honestly, it's been very exciting. I feel like I've learned a lot. I got some things I want to take back and put it into, some of the advice that he was giving. I'm definitely going to apply a lot of those things. And I feel like I'm not crazy because you guys are able to kind of see where I was coming from when it came to, how I was trying to move in the industry and everything. So, I learned a lot. So, I feel very positive moving forward, and I feel like this is a new jump off point for me. And I appreciate starting my jump off point with you guys.
Yeah, man. If you ever want to come back on the show, just let us know, man. We'll bring
Absolutely.
you on.
I would love to.
Remember me when you're Notch and you're rolling over to which side of the bed has two different phones. You feel cool too, Bill.
I mean, we can work together, man. I like your business mind. I'm okay with that.
I want to work with as many game people as possible.
Absolutely.
I want to, because I want to see as many people hit as many home runs as possible. My thing is this: even if you don't hit a grand slam, you just hit a baseliner, and you only make $5 million. Expenses 10%. You put $500K in the pocket. I helped you buy your new home.
Look, man. I really love your mom, man. I want to become the next Walt Disney. And I'm literally like I have a vision that big. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't know if I want to be the mouse. They've got a gangster, man. Like they've got an actual G-man. I don't know if you knew that, but they have a literal G-man, and I know his name. Dude is terrifying. Like if you look at his history, you're like, this man is an actual G-man. And you're I believe damn, that. The mouse got serious.
No, I believe that. But no, like I want to, I kind of have a vision. Like I want to get to a place like that. You know what I'm saying? And I want God to be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? So, and I believe it's possible. I just need the right people around. You know, so yeah.
I'm more than happy to help you get there if I can.
Absolutely.
I'll pass y'all's information to each other once we get off the stream.
Absolutely, please. Thank you so much, guys, and I really appreciate this opportunity. Guys.
Oh, by the way, are you going to TwitchCon?
Just say it again.
You going to TwitchCon?
No, it's so funny. I'm learning about a lot of these different cons. Like just now, like I knew about certain ones, like the basic ones, like PAX East and stuff like that. But I've been learning a lot about these cons. So what is TwitchCon exactly?
TwitchCon's where all the streamers go.
Oh no, I never thought about that.
You definitely want to go.
Okay. Where's it located?
I think the second one's in California.
California, okay.
Yeah, because that's what I'm going to. I ain't going to Paris. Just happened. I ain't going to Paris.
Got it. Okay. Well, I can't afford California right now, but in the near future, when the blessings of the Lord has rained down on dying hands.
Where are you out of? It's in Vegas.
I'm currently in Newport News, Virginia. So I just moved here from New York about a year ago.
Virginia.
Yes. I hate it here. I will be moving again.
Yeah, if you need help getting to TwitchCon, I can help you get to TwitchCon.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, we will talk. So yes, please pass the information. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, because TwitchCon would be amazing for you as an indie because of the fact that you'll be able to talk directly to the streamers who stream games and are constantly looking for something to make them stand out in terms of titles. If you're making the game, they can't get any more exclusive than the developer who made the game.
Fascinating. It's funny you said that, and I'm sorry, I don't want to keep going over time, but no, it's funny you said it because I'm actually doing a collaboration with a Twitch streamer right now. I met him on TikTok, and he saw the game, and he was like, saw the characters, and he was like, he was like, yeah, man, I really want to support any way I can. So I told him that, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn you into a character. A video game character. Now I don't know if I'm gonna necessarily put him in the game as of yet, but I'm designing him I got a sprite made already, just put the portrait art for him and everything. So I've got to animate the sprite art, and then I'm gonna make a little video, and yeah, it's gonna be a whole little thing. So
you can make a whole like the fight game. You can make a whole like little mini level.
Yeah,
where it's like there's a crowd in the background, and just like in Street Fighter in the crowded area, where like the crowd of people are in the background and they're fighting in the front. There used to be a bunch of Twitch streamers that were in the background.
That's a good idea. See? Yeah, see, I like this.
Yeah, there's already with people in for sprites anyways. You might as well make it something that's attached to the community.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to feel like a community game. Yeah.
That's selling the vision. It's like, hey, look. So you share this to your streaming people, I'll add you into the game. You didn't say how.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't say how. That's true. Yeah. That's a good point.
And then they're pushing your game to their entire following. You get 20, 30, 40 streamers that are significant population, 10, 20, 30,000 people. I mean, at that point, total subscribers from all of your people there, I mean, you get 40 of them times 40,000. That's 1.6 million total people.
Yeah.
Your exposure is 1.6 million people before you get to green light.
Yeah, that's
with that, if you take that with you to green light, you could have like a stream day where you actually sit down and like you're playing with all of the streamers.
That's a good idea.
And then at that point, it's so many people are going to put so many eyeballs on your game on the same day at the same time that you're going to have enough attention to trigger the green light program. Man,
that's crazy. And I can even see we got to talk about this later because I don't want to keep him on here forever. But yeah, me and you want to connect, man. Because I like the way you're thinking.
Yeah, it's what I do. Just don't ask me to draw anything. You do not want to see that. That's gonna need some Jesus, and that still ain't getting. It'll be an A for effort. I don't think I could draw a stick figure if you gave me a clamp.
But yeah, Kevin, please just send this information over, and then I'm gonna connect with him as soon as possible because this is awesome.
Hey, I'm broken stuff.
Yeah.